Chapter 472. That soft thing very nimbly went into his nostrils. When Qiang Long Tan tried to pull it out with his finger, he found that it had already disappeared. It had already entered his body through his respiratory tract, but he didn't know which organ it had fused into. Snake Lord, why are you so cruel? Your Shifu died because of Fang Yen, yet you are now obedient to him and willing to be his dog. Are you worthy of your dead Shifu and your own conscience? Qiang Long Tan pointed at the Snake Lord and cursed. What grudge do we have against each other that you have to ruin me and shame my corpse? Before Qiang Long Tan could finish his words, thick blood was already flowing out of his nostrils. He wiped his face with his hand, turning his face into a funny and colorful face. The Snake Lord sneered and said, Qiang Long Tan, you don't need to sow discord. No one knows better than I do how my Shifu died. I'm curious, how did you know that my Shifu was killed by Fang Yen? You will all die. Sooner or later. Either way, you will all die. Qiang Long Tan had already become hysterical. Because it wasn't just his nostrils that were bleeding, his eyes, mouth, ears, and even every single strand of hair on his body was bleeding. His body didn't feel any pain or itch, and there was nothing wrong with his organs. But his 7 orifices were bleeding nonstop. This feeling of the unknown was even more terrifying. Qiang Long Tan didn't want to endure this kind of torture, so he turned around and ran outside. Instead of being made fun of like a demon, he would rather end his life as soon as possible. Qiang Long Tan ran to the deck and jumped into the sea without any hesitation. But the sound of water splashing could be heard as his sinful body sank into the unfathomable depths of the sea. The Snake Lord leisurely followed behind him, stood at the edge of the ship and looked at the turbulent sea, then softly said, Do you really think jumping down will save you? No one answered his question. Because Qiang Long Tan had disappeared without a trace. I said I won't give you a quick death, and I won't give you a quick death. The blood maggots will corrode your internal organs inside your body, causing you to bleed nonstop. The blood flowing outside will attract a large number of terrifying sharks. The shark at the front will swallow you whole. But your fate isn't over yet. Although you are in the stomach of a shark, the blood maggots are still alive. After it digests, it will escape and enter the shark's body. At the same time, the sharks will suffer the same fate as you. The dead shark will be eaten by more sharks. At that time, which unlucky shark will eat the blood maggot? The Snake Lord sighed softly and said, This is the blood maggots that I have been growing for 3 years. After I became a real snake king, I became qualified to raise blood maggots. It was originally prepared for those people. Qiang Long Tan, you should first experience the infinite cycle of life and never reincarnate. Fate. The Snake Lord looked at the sea in the distance and said, I think you will like this new and vicious thing. Because you are all the same bad people. The sea shrouded in the night was like a mysterious and boundless dark magic mirror. There was not much beauty in it, only the rolling black water and the whistling cold wind. Because it was too big, it was easy to make people feel powerless and afraid. It seemed that if they were not careful, they would be swallowed up together with the ship and never have the chance to turn over and go ashore. Although it was cold, the air on the deck was much more comfortable than in the cabin. Lu Chaoga took off her coat and covered the driver's face. Fang Yen took off his outer robe and put it on Lu Chaoga. Lu Chaoga refused and said, I am not cold. Put it on, Fang Yen said. He knew that when Lu Chaoga said she was not cold, she was worried that he would be cold. This woman always wanted to take care of others out of habit. This kind of small barbarism would not make a woman feel disgusted. On the contrary, it would make a woman feel warm and protected. Lu Chaoga grabbed the front of her coat with both hands to prevent it from being blown away by the sea wind and said, Qiang Long Tan, don't mention Qiang Long Tan again. We don't know Qiang Long Tan, and we have never seen Qiang Long Tan. None of this has anything to do with us. You were kidnapped, and it was Jiang Fengxing who killed you. Lu Chaoga said with a worried expression, Are you ready? Are you really going to declare war on the Jiang family? Lu Chaoga was also a smart person. Fang Yen did not kill Jiang Fengxing, so he naturally wanted to squeeze every last drop of profit from this important person of the Jiang family. He would make the Jiang family pay for this kidnapping. As for the Jiang family, they no longer had the right to pay. After Qiang Longtan died, the Jiang family, which used to be one of the 4 big families in Huaqing, completely collapsed. The Longtu group was a big fat piece of meat, but not everyone had the right to take a bite. This would depend on the game between Fang Yan and the Jiang family. This man was taking 1 step and looking 3 steps ahead. His thoughts were becoming more and more meticulous. It's not that I want to declare war on the Jiang family, it's that the Jiang family has already declared war on me, Fang Yan said with a smile. He took out a bottle of white ointment from his pocket, unscrewed the cap, dipped his finger in the ointment, and gently wiped the wounds on Lu Chaoga's neck. The wounds were not deep, but they were still bleeding. If they were not treated in time, scars would be left on the neck. Which woman would be willing to have a few scars on their neck? When Fang Yan's finger touched Lu Xiaoga's wound, Lu Xiaoga let out a soft "hm." His body trembled slightly as if he would fall at any time. Fang Yan's finger touched Lu Xiaoga's wound. "What's wrong?" Fang Yan asked. "Does it hurt?" "It doesn't." Lu Xiaoga's cheeks were slightly red. She thought that it was fortunate that it was dark, so Fang Yan might not be able to see clearly. "It's just a little itchy, I'm not used to it, I say," Fang Yan said. He used the finger that was stained with ointment to carefully wipe Lu Xiaoga's neck. Lu Xiaoga also raised her head high, her slender neck perfectly presented in front of Fang Yan's eyes. She did not look at Fang Yan's eyes, but looked at the vast and dark sea where nothing could be seen. "This is not the golden chrysalis skin nourishing powder, it's the snow snake ointment I got from my friend. The effect of snow snake is not worse than the golden chrysalis, it's just too hard to find." Fang Yan applied it to all the wounds on Lu Xiaoga's neck, then put the half bottle of snow snake ointment in Lu Xiaoga's hand and said, "You keep this bottle." If there were any bumps, he would immediately apply a layer of it. After the wound is healed, there will not be any scars left, and the skin will be smooth and shiny, just like the skin of the snow snake. Lu Xiaoga refused and pushed the snow snake ointment to Fang Yan's hand. "It's too expensive. I can't take it." Lu Xiaoga said, "You gave your life to me, and I'll give you a bottle of snow snake ointment. What is it worth?" Fang Yan said strangely. When did this woman become so wishy-washy? She was not the kind of woman who would put a bottle of snow snake ointment in her eyes. "I think," Lu Xiaoga's gaze swept to the distant sea and said, "maybe your technique is more professional. If you help me apply it, the effect might be better." Fang Yan was stunned for a while, then put the snow snake ointment back into his pocket and said, "That makes sense." Lu Xiaoga let out a sigh of relief. Fang Yan didn't refuse, this was something to be happy about. She was willing to pay, but Fang Yan might not be willing to accept. Sometimes, there were too many scoundrels in life. "Your face is red," Fang Yan said. Lu Xiaoga was a bit annoyed. This guy, he must be doing it on purpose. Fang Yan suddenly reached out and pulled Lu Xiaoga into his embrace. He said emotionally, "You don't know how worried I was when I found out that you were kidnapped. Jiang Zhulu was sitting across from me at the time, and I had the urge to tear him apart. I was too scared that the people I cared about would leave me. The feeling of not being able to see you again in this life is too terrifying. Just thinking about it makes me feel cold all over and despair seep into my bones. I really can't imagine what kind of crazy things I'll do if you don't come back. Xiaoga, I apologize. I admit, ever since you hid the truth from me about your aunt, I've been on guard against you. I wanted to get close to you, but there was always a barrier in my heart." "I know." Lu Xiaoga lay in Fang Yan's arms tiredly and said, "I could feel it. All the responsibility was on me, so I never felt wronged. But later, you sacrificed so much for me. I left for 3 years, and you held on for 3 years. I mourned for 3 years, and you worked hard for 3 years. I thought about it peacefully for 3 years, and you fought openly and secretly for 3 years. This kidnapping was just a continuation of the previous traps. I thought, if it wasn't this time, if it was the previous time, if it was any other time in the past 3 years, if I wasn't there at that time, if you were kidnapped, would I be the biggest sinner? If something happened to you, how could I be worthy of what you've done for me? How could I live up to my own conscience?" Fang Yen, this is something I'm willing to do. It's also the only thing I can do. I said that I would bring Chaoyan technology to a higher level, and I want the whole world to look up to you. If a man wants to fight on the battlefield, a woman will choose a good horse with a golden saddle and sew an indestructible armor for him. Chaoyan is your strongest armor. Fang Yen hugged Lu Chaoga tightly and said, I won't let anyone hurt you anymore. I promise. Because Fang Yen hugged her too tightly, Lu Chaoga felt that she couldn't breathe properly and was about to suffocate. But she was really greedy for this feeling of being protected. Chapter 473. Clang. The room door was pushed open. The thick smoke that had gathered in the room finally found a way out and surged toward the door. The woman who was about to enter the room was suffocated by the smoke and started coughing violently. She stood at the door for a few seconds and waited for some fresh air to enter the room. Then she pinched her nose and walked into the room. She rushed to the windowsill and opened all the windows in the room. After the smoke had dissipated, she released her nose and said in a displeased tone, Jiang Zhulu, why did you smoke so much? Are you trying to poison yourself to death? The woman turned on the lights in the room and saw Jiang Zhulu smoking on the sofa in the corner of the room. Jiang Zhulu looked very disheveled. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, no one would believe that one of the famous 4 talents of Huaqing, the eldest young master Jiang, would be in such dire straits. His hair was messy and his face was yellowish. His clothes were messy and his eyes were bloodshot. He was still holding a cigarette between his fingers. The smoke flickered, and the ashes burned for a long time without being flicked away. Wine bottles were casually thrown on the ground, and the expensive carpet was burned by the fireworks, leaving holes of different sizes. It looked like a tattered rag that had been used for a long time. Jiang Xianxia raised her eyebrows and said, Jiang Zhulu, is this how you should behave? Is this how a man should behave? If that's all there is to it, then it's too disappointing. What did you say? Jiang Zhulu looked up and stared at Jiang Xianxia with his bloodshot eyes. As he smoked too much, his throat was already hoarse from the smoke. I said that you are a coward, a coward. You are very, very disappointing. Jiang Xianxia stood arrogantly at the door of the room and looked at Jiang Zhulu coldly. Jiang Zhulu pressed the cigarette butt into the ashtray and suddenly pounced toward Jiang Xianxia. Jiang Xianxia wanted to turn around and escape, but Jiang Zhulu grabbed her waist from behind. Jiang Zhulu, you are a coward, you are a coward. Let go of me, let go of me. Jiang Xianxia shouted. However, in Jiang Zhulio's villa, those who were qualified to enter were not around and those who were here did not have the right to enter. No one would respond to Xianxia's cries. Not only did Jiang Zhulu not let go of Xianxia, he hugged her even tighter. He pressed Xianxia's body against the door and reached out to lift her skirt. He grabbed the hem of her skirt and pulled off her underwear. Jiang Zhulu didn't even unbuckle his belt or take off his pants. He just unzipped it and entered in an extremely rude and unreasonable manner. The gentleman of the past had lost all pretense, etiquette, and honor at this moment. He only wanted to find a way to vent the violence and fear in his heart. It just so happened that Xianxia was here. To him, this was the best way. Jiang Xianxia struggled with all her might, but she was far less forceful than Jiang Zhulu, who had descended into a state of madness. Rape is like life. If you can't resist, then just quietly enjoy it. Jiang Xianxia finally calmed down. As she laid her hands on the door and stopped moving, she stuck out her buttocks and welcomed Jiang Zhulio's repeated attacks. After the storm subsided, Jiang Zhulu collapsed weakly on her back. He silently lifted Xianxia's skirt up and tidied his own clothes. As a noble lady, she had to make herself appear as calm and elegant as possible. After tidying Xianxia's clothes, she turned around and helped Jiang Zhulu to zip up his pants. Then she helped him to the sofa. I'm sorry. Jiang Zhulu lay on the sofa and said in a low voice. There's nothing wrong with adding some spice. Jiang Xianxia said expressionlessly. I mean, Jiang Zhulio's mind went blank and he tried hard to think of his words. My performance has disappointed you. All along I felt that I was very strong and calm. There was nothing that I couldn't do, and there was no opponent that I couldn't win against. Now, I know that it was all because of my father's strong support. I'm not strong because I'm strong, and I'm calm because of my father. Subconsciously, I always thought that it's okay if I don't do well. If I don't do well, there's still my father to help me and the Jiang family to support me. They will always help me get the final victory. In the past, I didn't want to admit it and always wanted to do something to prove myself. To prove to others and to my father. I want to tell them that I can do what my father can do. Now, I know that I can't do what he can do. Without me, the Jiang family won't suffer any losses. But without my father, it will be unstable. Jiang Shangxin reached into her bag and took out a lady's cigarette. She took out a stick and put it in her mouth. The thin and long stick complemented her delicate red lips and gave off a strange sense of temptation and beauty. You haven't found them yet? Jiang Shangxin puffed out a mouthful of smoke and asked. Jiang Zhulu shook his head. He reached out to touch the box of cigarettes, but realized that it was empty. Jiang Shangxin passed her cigarette over. Jiang Zhulu waved his hand and said, I'm not used to it. My father hasn't been found either. Jiang Shangxin said. Jiang Zhulio's face was full of worry and he said, Where do you think they went? Did they leave alone or together? Why did they leave so secretly and in such a hurry? Why didn't they say anything when they left? Why didn't they leave a message? They didn't even say anything because they didn't want to alarm anyone. They didn't say anything because they knew that they would definitely be able to come back. Where exactly did they go? Jiang Zhulu asked confusedly. Jiang Shangxin crossed her long legs and stared at Jiang Zhulu coldly. You really don't know? Jiang Zhulio's expression froze and he said embarrassedly, I only suspected it, but I didn't have any evidence to support it. Other than the kidnapping of Lu Chaoge, what else was there for them to disappear so mysteriously? You mean, the two of them worked together to kidnap Lu Chaoge? Jiang Zhulu asked in shock. Feeling sorry for her? Jiang Shangxin laughed coldly. Reaching out, Jiang Zhulu pulled Shangxin into his embrace and said, Shangxin, do you think that I would still have such thoughts at this stage? Lu Chaoge and I are already a thing of the past. You are the wife that I have officially married. How do you know that they left because of this? My father has always denied this matter and didn't reveal anything to me. My mother said so. Jiang Shangxin said, the outside world always thought that my father was highly regarded by the Jiang family because of his outstanding abilities. In fact, he was just an idiot. Because my father had some special fetishes, the Jiang family always felt that they had let my mother down. Therefore, many of the important businesses had been handed over to my mother to manage. My mother was not inferior to any man and managed all the businesses in an orderly manner. She even earned more than some of the businesses that the men were in charge of. The Jiang family couldn't push my mother away directly, so they could only push all the credit to my father. He really picked up a huge bargain. Jiang Zhulu knew that his wife, Jiang Shangxin, did not have a harmonious relationship with his father. Even the speech at the wedding was made by his mother. His father, Jiang Fengxing, did not even have a chance to speak. Now that he heard her say that his father had some special fetishes, Jiang Zhulu knew that those obscure rumors were actually true. Jiang Shangxin extinguished the cigarette but in her hand, as if she was strangling some of her bad mood. Although my father was a bit of an idiot, he still knew to discuss with my mother before he did anything. My mother would help him analyze what he could do and what he couldn't do. This time, he left without saying goodbye, which meant that he wanted to do something that he didn't want all of us to know. Moreover, when Fang Yan made a scene at our wedding, my father dragged us away. I asked my mother about Fang Yan's motive for doing this. My mother said that flies don't stare at seamless eggs. At that time, I only thought that even my mother had been convinced by Fang Yan's vivid performance. Jiang Zhulio's expression became increasingly solemn. He looked at Jiang Shangxin and asked, if the two of them really did this together, what do you think the outcome would be? Give up, they won't be able to come back. Jiang Shangxin said, if they haven't come back now, they won't be able to come back in the future. They didn't want others to know about this secret, so they could only keep their mouths shut. They knew that if they didn't come back now, more people would be alerted. Therefore, no matter what the reason was, they would definitely rush back in the shortest time possible. Now that they haven't come back, they probably… Jiang Zhulio's eyes turned red. He was different from Jiang Shangxin. He had deep feelings for his father. He didn't want anything to happen to his father, nor did he want to end up in a tragic situation where he would never be able to see his father again. At this moment, he really hated Fang Yan and was extremely afraid of Fang Yan. This man, Fang Yan, was simply the longest nightmare of his life. Jiang Shangxin looked at Jiang Zhulu and said, "I am here to see if you have made the final decision. If something happened to Qiang Longtan and Jiang Fengxing, it would prove that their kidnapping of Lu Chaoga had been exposed. Fang Yan could either kill them or use them as pawns to negotiate with the Jiang family. If Fang Yan chose the first option, the Jiang family would be in trouble. If Fang Yan chose the second option, the Jiang family's general family would face a serious disaster. If Qiang Longtan wasn't around, Jiang Zhulu would be the head of the Jiang family. What choice would he and the Jiang family's Longtu group make?" Chapter 474. The so-called final decision was that the situation was not right and they needed to make early preparations. Although Jiang Zhulu was feeling uneasy because of his father's disappearance, he was not a person who liked to drag things out. He got up from the sofa and walked to his desk. He took out a document from the desk drawer and handed it to Jiang Shangxin. "Sign here." Jiang Shangxin took the document and glanced at it. Then she looked up at Jiang Zhulu and asked, "You don't trust me?" Jiang Zhulu sat down and put his arm around Jiang Shangxin's shoulders. "It's not that I don't trust you. On the contrary, you are the only person I can trust in this world. My dad is gone and my mom doesn't care about the company's matters. Who else can I trust?" Jiang Shangxin pointed at a clause in the document and asked, "What does this mean?" Jiang Zhulu knew what her misunderstanding was and explained. Because of Lu Chaoga's deceit, the Longtu group had always been the battleground between the Jiang and Lu families. After that, the Jiang family mediated in the middle, and we spent a lot of money to buy back all the shares of the Longtu group from the Lu family. Now, Longtu belongs to the Jiang family completely. However, can the Jiang family still hold on under such circumstances? I can understand why you sold 49% of the shares to the Jiang family for 1 billion in cash. If the Jiang family did not stand up for you, Fang Yan and the other families would not let go of the cake of Longtu. The cake was too tempting, and the Jiang family did not have the power to protect it. They could only rely on external forces. However, why did you transfer 20% of the shares to me? Are you worried that I will leave you at this time? Husband and wife are one. Jiang Zhulu hugged Shangxin's body tightly and said, "At the wedding, I said that no matter if we are poor or rich, in health or in sickness, I will love you from the start. Shangxin, since I made a vow in front of so many guests, I will definitely keep my word. What is mine is yours. I am willing to share all my wealth and everything with you." Jiang Shangxin planted a kiss on Jiang Zhulio's affectionate face and said, "Don't worry, what's ours is still ours. No one will take it away from us." Jiang Shangxin readily signed the document and kept it in her bag. Then she said to Jiang Zhulu, "I will go back and discuss with my mom now. I will ask her to help me settle the matter of transferring the shares to the Jiang family as soon as possible." "Shangxin, it has been tough on you." Jiang Zhulu held Shangxin's hand and said with a face full of pity. After Shangxin got up and left with her bag, Jiang Zhulu walked to the window and watched as Shangxin walked to the courtyard of the villa. As if she had sensed Jiang Zhulio's gaze, Jiang Shangxin turned around and smiled at him. "Drive slowly," Jiang Zhulu instructed gently as he waved goodbye to Shangxin. She was like a sweet lover who was deeply in love and reluctant to part. Jiang Shangxin nodded and entered the red sports car that she had driven over. Very quickly, she drove away. The gentleness in Jiang Zhulio's eyes disappeared and the smile on his face disappeared. He coldly spat out 2 cold words, "Whore." Jiang Zhulu returned to his desk, took out a pencil from the pen holder, and started writing on a piece of white paper. After a long while, when the sky got darker and Jiang Zhulu thought that he couldn't wait any longer, the cell phone that was placed on the side of the table suddenly rang. Jiang Zhulu held onto the cell phone and didn't answer it immediately. Instead, he waited for the cell phone to ring 3 times before he answered the call. He said, "I have a strong smell of smoke on me. I am taking a shower. Xianxia, what's the matter?" "I have talked to my mom. It is a must to transfer a portion of the shares to the Jiang family. However, my mom said that the energy industry is the supporting industry of the future. With the scale of the Longtu Group, selling 49% of the shares for 1 billion yuan is too cheap. She is willing to use the funds under her control to make this deal with you. Buy 30% of the shares of the Longtu Group for 3 billion yuan. Do you think this plan is feasible?" "That's great." A mocking sneer appeared on Jiang Zhulio's face. "However," he said passionately, "our mom is still the most thoughtful. If we only need to sell 30% of the shares, then I can transfer another 10% of the shares to you. In this case, the Longtu Group will still be under our control. As a married couple, we will be of one mind. Even though we have to give away a portion of the shares, if we expand our business, we will be able to make up for our losses in the future. Isn't that right, Xianxia?" Jiang Xianxia said in a gentle voice, "I believe in you. Xianxia, I miss you. Can you come and accompany me?" "Zhulu, I miss you too. However, my mom needs someone to accompany her too. My dad hasn't been found yet either. See you tomorrow then." Jiang Zhulu hung up the phone and hid in the darkness once again. He would have to live like this for a long time in the future. When Fang Yan was practicing in the courtyard, he heard a sound behind him. Fang Yan turned around and saw Lu Chaoge, who was dressed in white pajamas, leaning against the windowsill and looking down. "Are you awake?" Fang Yan asked with a smile. Lu Chaoge smiled and nodded. She seemed to be in a good mood. "Go downstairs and eat something after washing up," Fang Yan said. "I have already prepared breakfast." "Okay, I will go downstairs now," Lu Chaoge said. However, she did not turn around as she looked at Fang Yan, who was practicing on the lawn. Fang Yan smiled and started to practice his drunken crane riding wind steps again. He had not been idle during the 3 years of mourning. But those who knew would understand that this person was overflowing with divine light and was certainly not a villager. For Lu Chaoge, Fang Yan's outfit was a little tempting. "I will take a shower and then accompany you to the yard for a walk," Fang Yan said. "Okay." Lu Chaoge nodded her head and agreed. Fang Yan took a shower and went downstairs. When he was about to take Lu Chaoge for a walk in the neighborhood, he realized that there were guests at home. Jiang Xianxia, Jiang Zhulio's fiancée. The Jiang family, or rather, the Jiang family, had finally come knocking. Lu Chaoge was still watching the television and had no intention of talking to Jiang Xianxia. Jiang Xianxia sat on the sofa and drank tea. Her eyes were also fixed on the television screen, as if the program was very tempting. When she saw Fang Yan coming downstairs, Jiang Xianxia put down the teacup in her hand and stood up. She said, "Mr. Fang, I want to talk to you." Fang Yan looked at Jiang Xianxia and asked, "What do you want to talk about?" "About Miss Lu," Jiang Xianxia said. Fang Yan looked at Lu Chaoge and smiled. "She is very good, there is no need to talk about it." "Then let's talk about those bad people." Jiang Xianxia looked at Fang Yan stubbornly and continued. Fang Yan's eyes turned cold. He smiled and said, "What do those bad people have to do with me? Why do I have to talk about them? It is such a good morning, will it affect my appetite and mood?" Jiang Xianxia knew that she would be ridiculed by Fang Yan, and this treatment was completely within her expectations. She looked at Fang Yan and said, "In that case, let's not talk about Miss Lu or those bad people. Let's talk about business." Chapter 475. Business. Fang Yan laughed. "We can talk about this. Who would be willing to reject something that could earn them money?" Fang Yan pressed on and forced Xianxia to retreat again and again. Jiang Xianxia wanted to talk about Lu Chaoge because she wanted to talk to Fang Yan about the ending of the kidnapping incident. Fang Yan said that Lu Chaoge was safe and sound and there was no need to talk about it. If Lu Chaoge was safe, Fang Yan would have the upper hand in the negotiation. Jiang Xianxia could only talk about the fate of the bad people, Because those bad people were her father and father-in-law. Fang Yan could not care less, but she could not. Fang Yan still refused and said that talking about those bad people would affect his appetite and mood. In that case, Jiang Shangxin could only erase her father and father-in-law and make them a deal. Yes, the two lives of Jiang Fengxing and Qiang Longtan were the contents of their deal. How humiliating and how helpless he was. This Fang Yan really did not want to save any face for the Jiang family and the Jiang family. Jiang Shangxin looked at Fang Yan and asked, "Name a price." Fang Yan walked to Lu Zhaoge's side and sat down. Leaning back slightly, he crossed his legs and looked at Jiang Shangxin, who was standing in front of him. He said, "There are no outsiders in the house. Why don't you speak more clearly? My emotional quotient is high, but my intelligence is not. I can't understand what you are saying at all, and I will think that you are insulting me." Fang Yan. Jiang Shangxin looked slightly angry. Fang Yan's repeated provocations had indeed used up a lot of her patience. Jiang Shangxin was also a beauty that was 1 in a million. She was tall and had a height of 1.7 meters with her naked body. Her 2 slender and well-proportioned legs could instantly attract all the men's attention. She was beautiful and looked very much like a celebrity who was popular across the 3 provinces. She was slightly thinner and looked a little frail. However, women from rich and powerful families had their own elegance, which made up for this little deficiency in their bodies. "I'm listening," Fang Yan said. Looking at Fang Yan's clear and deep eyes, Jiang Shangxin finally calmed down. The hostility in his heart dissipated, and he once again gathered his spirit to overcome the difficulties before him. He had almost forgotten that this was the man who caused Jiang Junling, the proud son of the Jiang family, to be rebuffed. "Well, as Mr. Fang Yan said, there are no outsiders in this room, so we might as well lay it out. Miss Lu Chaoge was kidnapped, and we really want to know the truth of this matter." "This matter has nothing to do with you. Why are you asking for the truth?" Fang Yan asked back. "Perhaps there's some misunderstanding? Do you still think this is a misunderstanding?" Fang Yan sneered. "If you think this is a misunderstanding, then let's end our conversation today. We don't have to do business." Jiang Shangxin clenched her teeth and said, "Fang Yan, what do I have to do for you to let my father go?" "Your father?" Fang Yan's gaze became playful and he said, "Where is your father? Has he gone missing? If he has gone missing, you should call the police immediately. Why did you come to me instead of asking the police to help you find him?" "Fang Yan." Jiang Shangxin felt that her breathing had become uneven again. Her chest heaved up and down, outlining a beautiful arc. This woman was so skinny, but her breasts were so ample. She was indeed a rare beauty. Jiang Shangxin sensed where Fang Yan was looking at, but she did not care about it. She looked at Fang Yan with a determined gaze and said, "Mr. Fang Yan, I have been honest with you, but you are not honest enough." "Honest with you about what?" "I told you that I was the one who took your father away. Is this considered being honest with you?" "All right. I admit that my father was at fault in this matter. They may have been involved in Miss Lu Chaoge's kidnapping. However, Miss Lu is safe and sound now. I want to bring my father and father-in-law back. Name your conditions." "Just involved." "Fang Yan, if you don't even have the courage to admit your crimes, then I doubt the sincerity of your negotiation. Since you are not sincere, then there is no need to negotiate. If I want them, I will personally go to your place and get them back." Jiang Shangxin's face was as cold as frost, and her chest rose and fell even more intensely. Fang Yan passed the lemon water on the marble coffee table to Lu Chaoge and said, "Drink more water." Lu Chaoge took the lemon water and drank a big mouthful. She held the glass and continued to watch a matchmaking show on the television. It was as if she had nothing to do with what was happening in the living room. Since she had already handed everything over to Fang Yan, she gave him 100% trust. She knew that Fang Yan could handle it better than her. Fang Yan also accompanied her to watch the television and was even amused by the contents of the television from time to time. The atmosphere was warm and harmonious, and they had completely entered the world of just the two of them. Jiang Shangxin suddenly felt that she had become an outsider. "Please, I am the guest, okay? Do you guys know how to behave according to Hua Xia's etiquette? Please, I am here to negotiate with you guys. Do you guys have any business literacy? How did you guys become an existence that was ignored by others? Jiang Shangxin walked straight to Fang Yan, stared into Fang Yan's eyes and said, Fang Yan, I want to bring them away today. Who? My father, Jiang Fengxing, and my father-in-law, Qiang Longtan. Bring them away then. What has it got to do with me? They are in your hands. Fang Yan looked a little unhappy and said, Why do you say that they are in my hands? I have never seen them. Fang Yan, I apologize to you. I also sincerely apologize to Miss Lu Chaoga. I know that they are the masterminds behind the kidnapping of Miss Lu Chaoga. They have done something that is morally and legally unforgivable. They are sinners, but they are still my family. I hope that I can bring them back. You can state a condition that you are satisfied with. Please believe in our sincerity. I believe you this time. Fang Yan smiled and said. He took out a voice recorder from his pocket and pressed the play button on it. Fang Yan and Jiang Shangxin's conversation immediately sounded from the recording. From the beginning to the end, every word was recorded clearly. Fang Yan had forced her time and time again to tell the truth. When Jiang Shangxin saw Fang Yan take out the voice recorder, there was no surprise or fear on her face. Obviously, she had expected such a thing to happen. Jiang Shangxin looked at Fang Yan, who was playing with the recording pen excitedly, and said, Since I'm here, I'm already prepared to bear all the mistakes. This thing won't be of much use anyway. If you admit to your crimes, this thing will not be of much use. If you do not admit to your mistakes, this thing will be of great use. I will get someone to post it on the internet and let the netizens all over the world download it for free. What do you think of this idea? Fang Yan, we can talk about the terms of cooperation. Jiang Shangxin said. She was not worried that Fang Yan would really throw the voice recorder on the internet. This was not beneficial to her side, but what good would it do to him? Fang Yan kept the voice recorder and looked at Jiang Shangxin. It is a good thing that you have the courage to stand up and admit your mistakes on behalf of your elders. However, there are some discrepancies between the truth and what you think. Jiang Shangxin's heart skipped a beat and she asked anxiously, What discrepancies? Fang Yan patted Lu Chaoga's shoulder and said in an unfriendly tone, Chaoga was indeed kidnapped by your relatives, but there is only one person who conspired to kidnap Chaoga, and that is your father, Jiang Fengxing. As for Qiang Longtan, I have never seen him before. I don't know where he went either. Why don't you get someone to look for him again? Jiang Shangxin's eyes turned cold and she said, Fang Yan, did you kill him? Murder is against the law. How could I do such a thing? Fang Yan hurriedly denied it. Even if I feel that he deserves to die 1,000 times or 10,000 times, I will never do something like that to silence him. How ruthless! Jiang Shangxin sneered and said, You hated Qiang Longtan, or rather, you were afraid of Qiang Longtan, so you simply killed him and put an end to everything. Then, you pushed the responsibility of his death onto the living. For example, my father, am I right? Qiang Longtan's life doesn't mean much to me. His death wouldn't have any effect on me. Of course, from a personal point of view, this is a very satisfying thing. If I know which hero did it, I will definitely treat him to a drink. Ask him later if it was your father who did it. If it was him, I will treat him to a drink too. The old master is doing good for the people, and he is doing good for the Jiang family. This is what the Jiang family lacks. Jiang Shangxin suppressed the anger in her and said, We admit that we kidnapped Miss Lu Chaoga. We will also admit to Qiang Longtan's death if there is a need. Our only request is to take my father away. Jiang Shangxin wasn't stupid, and neither was the Jiang family. Since they had already determined that Jiang Fengxing and Qiang Longtan were the masterminds behind the kidnapping of Lu Chaoga, and now that Lu Chaoga and Fang Yan had returned safely, it proved that the two unlucky fellows had been controlled by someone else. What kind of evidence was better than a living witness? As long as Feng Xing and Qiang Longtan were in Fang Yan's hands, Fang Yan would always have the right to speak and take the initiative. Jiang Fengxing and Qiang Longtan were like two whips in his hands, and whenever he was in a bad mood, he would whip them in their faces. The feeling of being beaten up passively was too uncomfortable. Furthermore, they knew Fang Yan too well. They knew that he was ruthless, vicious, and would not play by the rules. He would not give the Jiang family or the Jiang family any face. Since that was the case, they might as well take the initiative and take the hostages back from Fang Yan's hands. Since they had to negotiate, it was better to talk earlier than later. Problems had to be solved, and it was better to solve them earlier than later. Fang Yan looked at Jiang Xianxia and said, "Since you are so sincere, give me 30% of the shares of Longtu Group." Chapter 476. Fang Yan. Jiang Xianxia shouted angrily. She wanted to snatch the glass from Lu Chaoga's hand and smash it on Fang Yan's disgusting face. She would only feel better if she saw Fang Yan's face blooming. Too greedy. How much was 30% of Longtu Group's shares worth? How could he have the cheek to raise such a condition? Fang Yan looked at Jiang Xianxia with a puzzled expression and said, "Why? Didn't you say that you are very sincere? Is this how you show your sincerity?" "Fang Yan, we can pay a portion of the compensation. I said that I want 30% of Longtu Group's shares." "30% is too much," Jiang Xianxia said. "It is impossible for us to get so many shares of Longtu. Jiang Zhulu will not agree to it either." At this point, she naturally had to use her beloved husband as a shield. Fang Yan grinned. His smile was soundless, but it was exceptionally frightening. Under the gaze of such a smile, Jiang Xianxia suddenly felt guilty. It was as if she would not have the confidence to say or do anything in the future. Fang Yan looked at Jiang Xianxia and said, "Qiang Longtan disappeared mysteriously and has not appeared until now. With Jiang Zhulio's intelligence, he naturally knows that something has happened to his father. If Qiang Longtan does not return, what makes Jiang Zhulu think that he can protect this family business? With the way the Jiang family does things, they should have already divided the Longtu Group among themselves, right? How much did the Jiang family take? 49%? Or 40%? Jiang Xianxia pondered over her words and said, "You have only guessed part of it. Jiang Zhulu is indeed willing to give up a portion of the shares to the Jiang family as a sign of loyalty. He hopes that the Jiang family will give them some care and help in the future. However, it is definitely not as much as the 49% or 40% that you mentioned." Fang Yan pondered for a while and then smiled even more happily. "Interesting. This is really interesting. Fang Yan, you better be rational. I came here with full sincerity. You will only scare me away with a sky-high price. Jiang Xianxia, your Jiang family, or should I say, Jiang Xianxia yourself? Your family is also a perpetrator, right? Your father called both Feng Xing and Qiang Longtan criminals. Why do you think you're cleaner than Jiang Zhulu?" "Fang Yan, I don't understand what you mean. If Jiang Zhulu didn't hand over 49% of the shares to the general family, then it means that someone is speaking up for him. Otherwise, there was no way to satisfy the greedy appetite of the Jiang family. Who was it that was speaking up for him? This person is self-explanatory, right? Jiang Xianxia, your father is also a kidnapper and a murderer. You didn't get a lesson or punishment, but you want to profit from it. If I'm not wrong, Jiang Zhulu will transfer more than half of his shares to your name, right?" Jiang Xianxia remained silent. Jiang Zhulu had indeed done such a thing. Qiang Longtan and Jiang Zhulu owned 100% of the shares of the Longtu Group. Jiang Xianxia's mother, Li Yun, used the Jiang family's investment fund to buy 30% of the shares of the Longtu Group. Coincidentally, the Jiang family was behind Li Yun. This was considered as Jiang Zhulio's proof of allegiance to the Jiang family. As for the rest of the shares, Jiang Zhulu divided them into two portions. He kept one portion for himself and transferred the other portion to his own name. Now, Fang Yan directly asked for 30% of the shares. That was rudely cutting away the portion that belonged to him. Fang Yan knew that his guess was correct when he saw Jiang Xianxia's expression. Fang Yan looked at Jiang Xianxia and said, "Admit that you are the murderer who kidnapped Lu Chaoga and take responsibility for Qiang Longtan's disappearance. 30% of the shares is my lowest price. If you feel that you have committed a heinous crime and want to make up for it, we are fine with that. If you don't agree to my conditions, I will personally go to your door to get it. When that time comes, I will ask for more." A little more than I want right now. Jiang Shangxin stared at Fang Yan sharply and said, Fang Yan, aren't you afraid? Afraid of what? You are declaring war on the Jiang family. Fang Yan squinted his eyes and smiled. He said, You just realized it? 3 years ago, you realized it after I slapped Jiang Junling's face until it was swollen. Jiang Shangxin turned and left without saying a word. Will they agree to it? Lu Zhaoge asked in a low voice as he watched Shangxin leave angrily. They will definitely agree. Fang Yan smiled and said, They forced you out of the Longtu group back then. Now I will push you into the Longtu. Since there is a word from your father's name in it, we will take it back. Otherwise, won't we be letting down Uncle's efforts? That is your Longtu. Lu Zhaoge said stubbornly. Fang Yan shook his head and said, Let's not dwell on this problem. It is ours. All right. It is ours. Lu Zhaoge smiled and said. Fang Yan took the cup from Lu Zhaoge and placed it on the coffee table. He said, Let's go, I will accompany you for a walk. Lu Zhaoge looked outside and said, Jiang Shangxin has gone back. The Jiang family will definitely make their next move. Don't you need to make some preparations? Fang Yan helped Lu Zhaoge up and said, Nothing is more important than accompanying you for a walk. Lu Zhaoge didn't want to tell Fang Yan that she only injured her hand and that she didn't need anyone to help her up. Even the strongest woman would have moments of softness. The sexiest woman would always let men be in a state of softness. It was another autumn, and it was another chilly autumn. The leaves were falling, and the branches were desolate. Fang Yan and Lu Zhaoge strolled in the backyard, which was covered with fallen leaves, and enjoyed this rare moment of peace and leisure. Fang Yan, I thought that you wouldn't save me. Lu Zhaoge said softly. I didn't think about it. Fang Yan interrupted Lu Zhaoge and said, I didn't think about what I would gain if you weren't around. I only thought about what I would lose if you weren't around, so everything I do is meaningful. Lu Zhaoge sighed softly. It's not easy to have someone who is so compatible and trustworthy in life. So, I want to live well, and you have to live well too, Fang Yan said with a smile. You must live well. Lu Zhaoge said, I haven't done what I promised you. Fang Yan sighed and said, What can I do for you? Lu Zhaoge stopped in her tracks and used her hand that was wrapped in gauze to gently touch Fang Yan's face. She said, You just have to live well. Crack. The beautiful red porcelain cup was smashed against the wall and smashed into pieces. Hot tea splashed everywhere and stained Shangxin's exposed calf. She frowned in pain. Bam. Li Yun still felt that it wasn't enough to vent her anger. She slammed her palm on the mahogany table and scolded, Shameless kid, you're too much. Mom, what should we do now? It seems like my dad has really fallen into his hands. He's only using this to negotiate with us. We can negotiate, but we can't give them that much. Fang Yan said that the Jiang family is greedy, but he's even more greedy than us. How can he have such a huge appetite at such a young age? Isn't he afraid that his stomach won't be able to digest it? He really doesn't have any regard for the Jiang family. Recalling Fang Yan's detestable attitude, Jiang Shangxin said coldly, Fang Yan is adamant that he wants 30%. I think he won't accept any less than that. He also wants us to take responsibility for the kidnapping of Lu Zhaoge and Qiang Longtan's disappearance. He's determined not to let Qiang Longtan come back. Li Yun was so angry that she gritted her teeth and said, Why don't we let Qiang Longtan come back? Jiang Shangxin's heart trembled slightly, but she pretended not to hear the murderous intent in her mother's words. Indeed, because her father was still alive, and because Jiang Fengxing was the one who came back, the mother and daughter were in a terrible situation. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that they were afraid of hurting the innocent. Ding! While the mother and daughter were hesitating, the visual doorbell in the house rang. Jiang Shangxin walked over to take a look. She turned around and said to her mother with an embarrassed expression, Jiang Junling is here. Why is he here at this time? Li Yun was secretly resentful and said, What else could it be? The Jiang family just doesn't trust us. Jiang Shangxin was extremely sad. This was the sad thing about women. When the news of Fengxing's accident was sent back to the Jiang family, they immediately sent important people over to keep an eye on him. Although they were also members of the Jiang family, the ones who had the final say in the Jiang family were the sons and grandsons of old Master Jiang. Women? In their eyes, they were just tools for bearing children. Jiang Shangxin looked at her mother and asked, "What should we do now?" "We haven't decided yet. We will follow Jiang Junling's decision." Li Yun said quickly, "Open the door." Jiang Shangxin pressed on the doorbell and smiled. "Cousin, why did you come to Huaqing all of a sudden?" Jiang Junling still looked calm and said, "I was busy with some matters a few days ago, so I couldn't make it to Shangxin's wedding in time. I'm busy now, but I have to come over to give my blessings in person." "Thank you, cousin," Jiang Shangxin said with a smile. "I'll pick you up." She pressed the button to end the call and went to welcome Jiang Junling, who had rushed over from Yanjing with her mother Li Yun. There were a few cars parked at the entrance of the villa. Jiang Junling stood in front of the metal gate, and a large number of men in black surrounded him. Jiang Junling was extremely cautious during this trip, and the security was upgraded to the highest level. Chapter 477. Jiang Shangxin ran out to welcome Jiang Junling with a face full of joy. She was a completely different person from when she was in the house and guarded against him. Jiang Shangxin rushed forward and hugged Jiang Junling's arm. She said, "Brother, I called you before the wedding. You said that you couldn't make it because you had something on. You don't know how sad I was when I heard that. Ever since we were young, our relationship has always been the best. How regretful would it be if you didn't attend such a big event like my wedding? Do you know that? I hid in my room and cried for half an hour. Now that you're finally here, I'm so happy." Jiang Shangxin reached out to Jiang Junling and said, "Brother, where's the present? Don't tell me you didn't bring me a present." At this moment, Jiang Shangxin was just a little sister who was acting coquettishly and asking for a present from her brother. Every woman born in a rich and powerful family was born to be an actress. Jiang Junling took out a small box from his pocket and said, "Some time ago, I went to South Africa and had a good talk with the chief of the Wolf Spear tribe. He gave me this gift. I'm giving it to you. I'm giving it to you. I'm giving you a happy life." Shangxin opened the box and took a look at it. She exclaimed, "Red Dragon's Eye?" The Red Dragon's Eye was a very rare gemstone. The shape of the gemstone resembled the eyes of the legendary Red Dragon. This kind of gemstone was like a family heirloom, but Jiang Junling casually gave it to his sister as a wedding gift. From this, it could be seen that Jiang Junling treated his sister very well. It was also possible that they viewed it with great importance and were plotting something big. Jiang Junling nodded and said, "It's just a stone. Men don't have much interest in this kind of thing. I know you girls like it, so I thought I owed you a wedding gift, so I brought it. I hope you like it." "I like it. Of course I like it. Which woman could resist the temptation of a gem? Which woman can resist the Red Dragon eyes? Isn't a military order too valuable?" Li Yun asked worriedly. She heard the subtext in Jiang Junling's words. Men are innately not interested in such things, so what are men innately interested in? Wealthy enough to rival a country? Or was it the power to overturn the world? Li Yun did not treat Jiang Junling as passionately as her daughter, Jiang Shangxin. She was more respectful and fearful of him. This young man's influence in the general family was astonishing, and he was someone who could directly influence the old master's decision. The Jiang family's investment in land in Africa was encouraged by the general's order. He even handed over the business in this area to Jiang Junling. Jiang Junling personally oversaw Africa and became brothers with the impoverished chiefs who were sitting on a treasure mountain. He gave them luxury cars, good wine, and everything they liked. The result of catering to their needs was that they were able to bring back carts after carts of their precious ores. The profits were astonishing. Now that Jiang Junling had used a Red Dragon's Eye, Li Yun was truly worried. Everyone knew that Jiang Junling was a business genius. He never did business that was at a loss. What did he want to take from them this time? Beauty? Li Yun's body was a little restless at the thought of this. However, she was very clear that with Jiang Junling's self-discipline and strictness, he really would not do anything too crazy. Jiang Junling took a look at Li Yun and smiled. "Auntie, it's all right. We are all a family." The rest of the people stood guard outside. Jiang Junling followed Li Yun and Jiang Shangxin into the house. Shangxin personally brewed a cup of Mount Junshan silver needles and placed it in front of Jiang Junling. She knew that Jiang Junling liked this tea. Then, she sat beside Jiang Junling, as if she was Jiang Junling's wife and not Jiang Zhuliu's wife. Jiang Junling looked at Li Yun and asked, "Auntie, how is the situation? Is there any news from fourth uncle?" Li Yun's face was full of worry. She said in her pleasant voice, "There is news, but the situation is not optimistic." What happened? Tell me about it." "I happen to be in Huaqing, I might be able to help," Jiang Junling said in a low voice. "We are all a family, we can't let outsiders bully us." Jiang Fengxing, this bastard, he actually wanted to kidnap Lu Chaoge with Qiang Longtan. Lu Chaoge was kidnapped and Fang Yan went to your sister's wedding to ask for her. "I heard about this." Jiang Junling's eyes turned cold and he said, "Fang Yan bullied the Jiang family. He will get his retribution one day." Just, who does things like this? Marriage is a big event in a woman's life, and a wedding is the dream that women look forward to the most. In the end, it was ruined by Fang Yan. Because of this, your sister cried for a few days. After the wedding, your fourth uncle and Qiang Longtan disappeared mysteriously. We couldn't find them no matter how hard we tried. You know your fourth uncle's character, he would more or less discuss it with me when he encountered something, but this time, he didn't discuss it with me. After that, Lu Chaoge came back. Your fourth uncle and Qiang Longtan didn't appear, so we knew that they might have been controlled by someone. Maybe this is a show put up by Fang Yan? Jiang Junling asked. I thought so too. But now that she is in Fang Yan's hands, what can we do? Aren't we just going to listen to what others say? Fang Yan's conditions must be very hard to accept, right? Brother, how did you know? Jiang Shangxin exclaimed with her eyes wide open. Jiang Junling touched Jiang Shangxin's head and said with a smile, I knew a long time ago that he has good teeth, 30%. Li Yun said. He wants 30% of the Longtu Group's shares. Jiang Junling nodded and said, Indeed, it suits Fang Yan's taste. How are the shares of the Longtu Group being divided now? Li Yun didn't respond to Jiang Shangxin's gaze, she only looked at Jiang Junling sincerely and said with a smile, Zhu Lu is also tactful and is willing to transfer 49% of the shares to the Jiang family. But I thought that since his father is gone and they still have to live in the future, I made the decision to only ask for 30% of the shares. You have a good relationship with Shangxin. Can you speak up for Shangxin on this matter? Jiang Junling agreed with a smile and said, As an elder brother, I will not shirk from this matter. How can an elder brother and younger sister fight over the assets? Since Aunt has already thought of the distribution plan, then let's do it this way. Brother, thank you. Jiang Shangxin thanked him happily. But now, Fang Yan wants 30% of the shares. This huge sum? Are we going to give it to him or not? Jiang Junling didn't answer this question. Instead, he picked up the teacup in front of him and savored the fragrance of the Laojun tea. Jiang Junling didn't speak, so Li Yun and Jiang Shangxin didn't speak either. The house fell into silence. What do you think, Aunt? Jiang Junling looked up at Li Yun and asked. I haven't thought about it yet. I'm anxious. Luckily, the military order came. Li Yun looked at Jiang Shangxin and said with a smile, We will listen to the military order and make the decision. Jiang Junling held the teacup in his hands and muttered for a while, We still have to save them. How could a general abandon his own family? We will be laughed at if word gets out. I understand, Li Yun said. Then I will ask Zhu Lu to take out some shares? I will talk to him. Jiang Junling said. He put down the teacup and said, I will go out for a walk and meet my old friends in Huaqing. Military order, take care of your safety. Li Yun reminded him from behind. Jiang Junling stopped in his tracks and turned to look at Li Yun. He said, Is there any place that the Jiang family can't go? Li Yun smiled and nodded. Of course. However, it's always good to take care of your safety. You are the lifeblood of the Jiang family. Even a scratch on your skin would be an earth-shattering event. Jiang Junling smiled and said, Aunt, you have to take care of your health too. Don't worry, I will definitely bring forth uncle back. I believe in the military order. Li Yun said gratefully. Jiang Junling got into the car and left. Jiang Shangxin only walked to her mother when the convoy was far away and couldn't be seen. She asked, Mom, can he really bring my father back? Who can guess what he is thinking? Li Yun let out a heavy sigh. When facing the general's order, the other party gave her an immense pressure. She felt that it was hard to breathe. Seeing her mother's greedy breathing, Jiang Shangxin smiled and said, He is getting scarier. In the past, there were still traces of him. Now, I don't know what he is thinking. That Fang Yan is really a weirdo. How could he force someone to such an extent? Let's wait and watch the show. Li Yun said calmly. Didn't he fly to Huaqing at this point in time to regain the face that he lost 3 years ago? Are we really going to let Zhu take out another 30% of the shares? If we give 30% to the Jiang family and another 30% to Fang Yan, how much will we get? Li Yun hugged her daughter's shoulders and said, Things have changed. We will not get involved. As long as you and Jiang Zhu are still together, what is yours will still be yours in the future. Mom, I know. Jiang Shangxin hugged her mother's arm tightly and said, But how did the Longtu group fall apart? It is really hard to predict who will end up with it in the future. Sigh, Qiang Longtan has always been smart, but he turned the tables on this matter. If I had known earlier, I would have stopped you from marrying Jiang Zhu. There were so many twists and turns in this marriage. In the future, Jiang Shangxin hugged her mother's shoulders and said, Mom, women like us? How can there be happiness? For some reason, the image of Fang Yan passing lemonade to Lu Chaoge and the two of them snuggling together to watch a matchmaking show suddenly appeared in Jiang Shangxin's mind. The most romantic thing I can think of is to grow old with you. Has Lu Chaoge found the happiness that she wants? Jiang Shangxin started to be jealous of Lu Chaoge for no reason. We are the same woman. What I don't have, why would you have it? Chapter 478. Longting Tower, Longtu Group Headquarters. Since his father, Qiang Longtan, wasn't around, Jiang Zhu had been sitting in the CEO's office of Longtu Group for the past few days. Qiang Longtan was the well-deserved leader of Longtu Group. He was also the spiritual idol of nearly 10,000 employees in Longtu Group. Since the establishment of Longtu Group, he had led the employees to create one miracle after another. Qiang Longtan hadn't been to the company for 3 consecutive days, which naturally caused a certain degree of disturbance in the company. In particular, some of the senior managers who had a close relationship with Qiang Longtan kept calling the CEO's office and Jiang Zhuliu's phone to ask about Qiang Longtan's whereabouts. Jiang Zhu couldn't shirk the responsibility, so he had to stand up and take on the heavy responsibility. On the first day of work, he called for a senior meeting to explain to the public that his father wasn't feeling well and needed to rest for a period of time. Only then did the unstable wave of rumors settle down, and all kinds of rumors finally subsided. Jiang Zhu was very busy. He never thought that being the leader of Longtu Group would have so many things to do. When his father sat in this position, he would leisurely drink tea, read quietly, go to work on time, and accompany his mother for dinner every night. Why did he have so many things to deal with? Why did he have so many decisions to make? Soon, Jiang Zhu understood the cause of the matter. Even if he and Jiang Longtan were father and son, and he had inherited the foundation that his father had single-handedly built, Jiang Longtan's position was different. However, could he also trust the people that his father trusted? Could he also use the people that his father used? He thought so, but did those people think the same? They didn't dare to make decisions that should have been made by them, so they sent them to Jiang Zhu to handle. They didn't dare to make decisions that should have been their responsibility, so they sent them to Jiang Zhu. Everything was done by Jiang Zhu, and all the decisions were made by Jiang Zhu. How could he not be tired? Although Jiang Zhu found the crux of the problem, he still didn't make any changes. He read all the reports that his subordinates sent him. He would give answers to his subordinates' reports. In this matter, they weren't wrong, and neither was Jiang Zhulu. Back then, his father trusted them, so he delegated power to them. Right now, Jiang Zhulu was walking the same path as his father. First, take back the power, then give it back to those who are trusted by him. Don't underestimate this process. It was a simple process that could win over the loyalty of smart people and let them clearly know who was in charge of the Longtu group. Jiang Zhulu had already made preparations to take over. He knew that his father would never come back. Mr. Jiang, Luo Jiebin, the head of Jek's research lab, would like to report to you the research direction of Fire Phoenix's second phase. Mr. Kai Mingliang, the chairman of Longxing Company, has come to visit. He wants to talk to Mr. Jiang about the three-phase cooperation. Another Mr. Jiang came to visit. He said he's an old friend of yours. Wait. Jiang Zhulu looked up from the pile of reports in front of him and asked the confidential secretary, "What did you just say?" A Mr. Jiang came to visit. He said he's an old friend of yours. The confidential secretary, Jiang Liang, reported again. He was the secretary of the previous boss, Qiang Long Tan. He hadn't gained the trust of the person in front of him yet. Therefore, he was still a little nervous when facing him, but he hid it very well. Seeing that Jiang Zhulu was very concerned about this matter, he said, "Mr. Jiang is drinking tea in the living room." Jiang Zhulu hurriedly threw the pen in his hand on the table, pushed the chair away, and walked outside. He said, "Take me to him." Jiang Liang didn't ask why. He turned around and led the way. When Jiang Zhulu arrived at the living room, he saw Jiang Junling sitting in the public living room of the CEO's office, drinking tea. There were a few people waiting to see him. They didn't know Jiang Junling's identity and were chatting with each other. No one paid attention to Jiang Junling and treated him as an outsider. Seeing Jiang Zhulu come out, the few people who were waiting quickly stood up to greet him. Jiang Zhulu nodded and smiled at them. He walked straight to Jiang Junling and stood beside him. He said respectfully, "Master, why are you here? If there's anything you need, just let me know. I'm familiar with Huaqing, so it's convenient for me to drive to see you." Jiang Junling put down the teacup in his hand and said with a smile, "If I don't come to see, how would I know how much energy Jiang Zhulu has stored and how much ambition he's suppressing? Not bad. It looks like you're in a good state." Jiang Zhulu was startled inwardly, but he didn't show it on his face. He said with a smile, "I've let Master see a joke. My father isn't feeling well, so I came to help him deal with some side work. The real important matters are still up to my father to decide. Master, do you want to come to my office?" Jiang Junling got up and said, "Then let's go and have a look." Jiang Liang didn't know Jiang Junling's identity, but from Jiang Zhulio's attitude toward him, he could tell that this person had an extraordinary background. Hearing that they were going to the boss's office for a discussion, Jiang Liang quickly led the way and helped open the office door. After waiting for Jiang Junling and Jiang Zhulu to come in, Jiang Liang immediately went inside to make tea. After he quickly finished serving them, he quietly left. Jiang Junling looked at Jiang Zhulu and said, "Julio's mental state is very good. This is the quality a man must have to achieve great things." Jiang Zhulu forced a smile and said, "I'm not afraid of Master laughing at me. I can pretend in front of others, but I have to tell the truth in front of Master. I don't have any confidence right now, and I'm still hanging in the balance. My father's life or death is unknown, the company's undercurrents are surging, and it's extremely unstable. Rumors and slanders are bewitching people's hearts. Things keep happening one after another, and I can only force myself to not let this frame fall to the ground with a loud bang. The Jiang family won't fall. There's still Zhulu. Longtu won't fall either. The Jiang family still exists." Jiang Junling softly comforted him. Jiang Zhulu was very excited after hearing Jiang Junling's attitude. The burden on his body was immediately lifted. Although he had put on an act and given away 49% of the shares with a wave of his hand, it was still unknown whether the Jiang family would accept it or not, and whether they would protect the Jiang family after accepting it. Now that an important figure from the Jiang family had stood out and said that the Jiang family and Longtu wouldn't fall, it meant that they had accepted his kindness and kneeled to him. From now on, the Jiang family would be a subsidiary of the Jiang family. Of course, they would be a subsidiary after he and Jiang Shangxin got engaged. However, the Jiang family had a lot of autonomy at that time, and they could bite back at the main family at any time. Now that the Jiang family was in danger, they could only rely on the Jiang family. They would bite whoever the Jiang family wanted them to bite. They were just a family of dogs. Thank you, Master. Jiang Zhulu stood up and bowed deeply to Jiang Junling. Don't underestimate Jiang Junling's simple words. He had saved the Jiang family and longtime. Jiang Junling didn't hide it or beat him up. Instead, he gave him such a big gift the moment they met. Whether it was sincere or not, he was sincerely grateful to Jiang Junling and the Jiang family. At this moment, Jiang Zhulu was in a state of isolation and helplessness. Even a little spark could warm his ice-cold chest. Jiang Junling held the teacup and drank his tea. He smiled and said, "We will be family in the future. You don't have to be so polite." Jiang Zhulu returned to his seat and asked Jiang Junling, "Master, why did you come to Huaqing this time?" "To settle things." Jiang Junling said, bathing in the Huaqing pool during the chilly spring, the hot spring water was smooth and smooth. Under the shade of the maple trees, there was a hot spring that was emitting white mist. The spring water gave off a strong smell of sulfur. It was obvious that it was natural underground spring water. The October maple leaves were as red as fire, and the red leaves that covered the mountains and plains were burning like flames. Layer upon layer, like the waves of a sea of fire, spreading to the surroundings. Pieces of red leaves fell into the pool, becoming decorations for the white medicinal soup. Red and white alternated, forming a beautiful and moving picture scroll. Splash! The young girl in the spring gently shook her arms, and the water splashed. The green mountains were full of emotions, but the girl in the pool was even more so. The maple leaves were beautiful. The girl was even more beautiful than all the maple leaves on the mountain combined. The young girl stood up from the pool. The light muslin on her body could hardly conceal her curvaceous figure, causing her perky breasts and flat abdomen to be faintly visible among the green trees and red leaves. It was a great advantage to all the tree gods and grass immortals in this world. A black-clothed woman silently walked over and draped a white cloak over the girl's body. The girl took the towel and wiped the water from her hair. She asked, "What's new now?" Qin Xiaofeng has been buying up film and television stocks. Today, he spent 1.3 billion renminbi in one day. However, this method of making quick money through insider information is still a small trick. It can't be relied on, the black-clothed woman replied. Xiaofeng has a good sense of smell. Fighting Star Corporation is about to go public, which will affect the stock market of the entire film and television industry. Wanong Energy's chairman, Mr. Wang Tong, wants to visit you. They still aren't willing to give up the opportunity to represent Chaoyan Energy. Tell Wang Tong to go to Huaqing and talk to Lu Chaoga. Only she has the right to decide. I won't interfere. Yes. I'll talk to Chairman Wang, the black-clothed woman replied. Jiang Junling went to Huaqing. Huaqing? The girl stopped drying her hair. After thinking for a bit, she smiled mockingly and said, Fang Yan just went to Huaqing, but he already couldn't wait to chase after him. Just how low does he feel that he's in such a hurry to regain his lost confidence? The black-clothed woman stayed silent. This was something the girl could say, but she couldn't say. The girl continued drying her hair and said, I should also go to Huaqing to take a look. I've been away for 3 years, I really do miss it. Chapter 479. The hardest thing in life is to make a choice, Lan Shangu said with a sigh. Blue Mountain Club. Lan Shangu stood at the entrance of the club with a calm face and a gentle and happy smile on his lips. But inadvertently, a trace of deep worry appeared in his eyes. This made the assistant beside him very puzzled. This young master had single-handedly facilitated the cooperation between the Lan family and Chaoyan Technology. As Chaoyan Technology's Little Flame products sold well all over the country, the Lan family, as one of the 3 major agents, also made a lot of money. He was originally the focus of the Lan family's training. After this successful investment, He could already be confirmed as the next candidate for the Lan family's helm. Shouldn't he be enjoying his carefree time? What else was there that made it so hard for him to let go? Lan Shanggu was indeed very worried, and this kind of suffering couldn't be poured out to outsiders. The two big brothers, Fang Yan and Jiang Junling, wanted to negotiate, but chose the Blue Mountain Club as the venue. Others didn't know the relationship between the Lan family and the Blue Mountain Club, but it was impossible for Fang Yan and Jiang Junling not to know. Originally, Lan Shanggu wanted to pretend that he didn't know about it. If they wanted to negotiate, then let them talk. But now that both sides had greeted him, he couldn't hide anymore. On one side was a famous young master in the capital, one of the most core figures of the Jiang family. Even with the Lan family's current status, there was no way to compete with such a giant. On the other side was a new upstart in the business world. Although he didn't show himself, and even the financial circle didn't know about his existence. However, as one of the most important partners of Chaoyan Technology, how could Lan Shanggu not know about the relationship between Lu Chaoga and Fang Yan? How could he not know about the relationship between Fang Yan and the Qin family's eldest daughter, Qin Yitian? How could he not know who the real boss of Chaoyan Technology was? This pretty boy who only knows how to be soft-spoken. A dragon and a tiger, Lan Shanggu couldn't afford to offend either of them, and he didn't want to offend either of them. But why did you drag a small character like me into the fight between dragons and tigers? If you want to fight, go to Sword Peak. If you want to scold, go to the top of Shisha Mountain to scold. Why did you drag me into this? Did the poor deserve to be bullied by the rich? Poor people also have dignity, okay? His heart was filled with sorrow, but he still had to force a smile. Lan Shanggu felt that he was a prostitute in a nightclub who drank with the customers with her bare chest and thighs. While she was cursing Fang Yan and Jiang Junling for being unkind, a luxury car stopped in front of the clubhouse. Lan Shanggu quickly walked down the stairs and opened the door for him. He smiled and said, "Long time no see, young Master Jiang. You haven't been to Flower City for a few years, right?" Jiang Junling shook hands with Lan Shanggu and said with a smile, "I don't dare to come here often." By saying that, young master, you are criticizing our Flower City for not doing a good job in receiving guests. This time, we will learn our lesson and treat you well. We will let you have a new understanding of our Flower City. Lan Shanggu purposely changed the topic and said with a smile. How could such a small trick escape Jiang Junling's eyes? He held Lan Wudu's hand and smilingly said, "Wudu, you and I are now estranged. In the past, when we were in Beijing, we would still go out to drink and chat when we had nothing to do. Now that we've met, you're starting to set an official standard?" Lan Shanggu's expression changed as he smiled and said, "Young master, if you have time, I can send you an invitation right now. How about we two brothers have a good drink and chat today? I've already rejected everyone else's appointments. Whoever dares to compete with me, I'll dare to fight with them." Jiang Junling laughed and said, "That's right. You've always made me feel regretful in my heart. We used to be good friends. How could we lose you all of a sudden? It's good now. I like your boldness and boldness that you're not afraid of anything." The two of them entered the clubhouse's top-notch, Lanshan private room. Other than an old man in sunglasses who followed them in, the others automatically left. Lan Shanggu's assistant helped arrange it. A beautiful girl in palace attire performed a tea ceremony on the spot. A cup of fragrant, colorful tea was served to the guests before the beautiful girl in palace attire bowed and left. Lan Shanggu made an inviting gesture and smilingly said, "I know that young master likes to drink Lao Jun tea. When I go back, I've asked for all the treasures of our old man, young master, have a taste." Jiang Junling picked up the teacup and took a sip. He smiled and said, "This year's new tea was picked before the first rain before the Qingming festival. Only the tender tea core was taken, and the virgin leaves were washed and dried. Then, it was hand stir-fried. The leaves, heat control, and stir-frying techniques are all top-notch. Together, it's a peerless product. When I'm free, I'll visit the old man and ask him for a cup of good tea to drink. Then the old man will be so happy that he'll have to show off his tea skills in front of you." Lan Shanggu smiled in response, but he was secretly vigilant. Jiang Junling wanted to visit the Lan family's old man. He wouldn't believe that he didn't have any other intentions. However, the Lan family now had Chaoyan technology as their cash cow. It wouldn't be easy for them to make the Lan family change their ways, right? Jiang Junling held the teacup and looked at Lan Shanggu thoughtfully. He said, I came 20 minutes earlier than the agreed time because I wanted to have a good talk with you. It's hard for everyone to meet each other now. It's even harder to sit down and have a good talk. Lan Shanggu knew that he couldn't avoid it anymore. He looked at Jiang Junling and said seriously, Young master, what do you want to say? I'm listening. You can't just listen with your ears. You have to talk with your mouth. Think carefully with your heart and brain. Valley, I know that you're working very well with Chaoyan now. As the saying goes, blocking someone's path to wealth is like killing their parents. I definitely won't do this kind of thing. What I want to talk to you about is that our Jiang family is preparing to invest a huge amount of money and resources into Longtu. We want to make Longtu's territory bigger and stronger and become a world-class energy company. Are you interested in joining in? Lan Shanggu fell into a short silence. It wasn't a blatant attempt to rope him in. Instead, it was a more brilliant way to divide him. Jiang Junling knew that it was impossible to completely separate the Lan family from the alliance of interests that Lu Chaoga had helped Fang Yan to create. This was because there were huge benefits involved. Their future development was limitless. Even the Jiang family was very tempted by this. However, if he was allowed to earn benefits from this alliance of interests, and if another huge benefit was placed in front of him, what choice would the Lan family make? Jiang Junling's thoughts were very simple. He couldn't rope the Lan family in for his own use. He also didn't want the Lan family to be used by Fang Yan. This way, Jiang Zhulu wouldn't have to make enemies in Huaqing. Longtu Group's situation would also be much more relaxed. Li Yun reminded Jiang Junling to be careful in Huaqing. This was because they knew very well that the current Huaqing was no longer the Huaqing of the past. If Fang Yan was willing, he could do many things that would harm Jiang Junling's actions. It was precisely because he understood this that Jiang Junling was so angry at Li Yun's reminder. Sometimes, the truth really hurt one's pride. Faced with the bait that Jiang Junling threw out, Lan Shanggu was indeed a little hesitant. Although they were now the agent of Chaoyan technology, would they still be in the future? If they no longer had any value, would they be kicked away by Chao Yan and Fang Yan? If they invested in Longtu Group, they would become an important partner of Longtu Group. Everyone would share the glory and disgrace and work together. Who dared to say that Longtu didn't have any chance? Moreover, even if Chao Yan became the world's #1, so what? Who could say that the world's #2 company didn't make money? After Jiang Junling threw out this bait, he didn't say anything else and waited patiently for Lan Shanggu's answer. Lan Shanggu's mind spun like lightning, constantly considering the pros and cons of various options. After a long time, Lan Shanggu finally made up his mind and said, "Young master, this matter is too important. I have to discuss it with my family. I think they are more mature than me, and their foresight is also more farsighted. They will give a more accurate judgment." Jiang Junling's eyes trembled slightly, then returned to normal in an instant. Although Lan Shanggu didn't say anything definite, he had already rejected Jiang Junling's suggestion in person. In other words, between him and Fang Yan, he chose Fang Yan. Moreover, he followed Fang Yan with a resolute and decisive attitude. This kind of person, if you can't be a friend, then you can only be an opponent. I understand. Jiang Junling nodded and said. Then he held his teacup and drank his tea, no longer saying anything. Jiang Junling didn't say anything, and Lan Shanggu didn't say anything either. The sound of chattering and the fragrance of tea was quiet. But the air in the room was about to freeze. Time flew, and when it was almost time to meet, Lan Shanggu stood up and said, "Young master, please wait a moment. Young Master Fang is here, I'll go welcome him." Jiang Junling didn't reply. Since Lan Shanggu had already made his choice, it was reasonable for him to give Fang Yan enough respect at this time. Lan Shanggu didn't wait for Jiang Junling's response, and pushed the door open and walked out of the room. When he stood at the entrance of the club again, his mood was a lot better for no reason. Lan Shanggu felt his heart calm down. The most difficult thing in life was to make a choice. When you make a choice, many things will suddenly become clear. A GMC limousine stopped at the entrance of the club, and Lan Shanggu quickly walked down the steps. After opening the door for him, he smiled and said, "Young master, Jiang Junling has been waiting for you for a long time. I thought you stood him up and wouldn't come today." Fang Yan jumped out of the car first, then turned around to help Lu Chaoge get out. Only then did he greet Lan Shanggu and said with a smile, "I'm a little late. Chaoge has a bad hand, so I've been doing the grocery shopping and cooking these days. How was the braised ribbonfish today?" "It was a little salty," Lu Chaoge said. She was wearing a silver suit and a sky blue silk scarf around her neck, and the beautiful bow just happened to cover the wound on her neck. Her fluffy hair was combed into a phoenix tail. The phoenix tail was slightly curled, making her neck look slender and delicate. Her snow-white chest made people gulp involuntarily. That heart-shaped water drop pendant was the happiest jewelry in the world. "I don't want to use too much salt to cover up the fishy smell," Fang Yan explained seriously. "What do you want to eat tonight? I'll make you a ribbonfish soup. It'll be a little lighter, but I want the freshness of the fish." "Okay," Lu Chaoge said. "And the mapo tofu we had this afternoon." "No problem." Fang Yan held Lu Chaoge's arm and said, "The prices have gone up again. Let's go in and ask for some money to buy groceries." One side was trying to bribe people, while the other was talking with his girlfriend about how to cook and buy groceries. Who was the real winner? The answer was obvious. Lan Shanggu laughed and said, "We'll have to ask for some money. We can't afford to ask for less." But he was thinking that a pretty boy like Fang Yan was already a winner in life. Chapter 480. Under Lan Shanggu's lead, Fang Yan supported Lu Chaoge into Lan Shan's private room. When the old man in sunglasses saw Fang Yan, he raised his eyebrows slightly and his expression tightened. Jiang Junling sensed the strange expression of the old man beside him and glanced at him, then turned his gaze to Fang Yan. Fang Yan supported Lu Chaoge to sit down and greeted the old man in sunglasses sitting opposite him, saying, "I haven't seen you for 3 years. Are you still in good health?" "Very good," the fisherman said. He looked at Fang Yan and said in a sincere and caring voice, "Is your grandfather well?" Fang Yan smiled and said, "If you want to know whether he's well or not, why don't you go to Swallow Dock and have a drink with him?" "I don't dare to go." The fisherman sighed softly. "You know your grandfather's temper. If I go, he'll definitely scold me badly. I've lived for so many years, and this is the only face I can use to fool people. If it falls on the ground, how can I pick it up? Also, your grandfather doesn't want to see me right now. Old Fang has always been strong and likes to compare himself to others. He's in his twilight years, but he has to send off a black-haired person. He doesn't feel good about it. Why should I go and stab him?" Fang Yan's expression was solemn and he showed unprecedented respect to the fisherman. He said, "You are my grandfather's old friend of many years. The people who understand him the most are you old friends. My suggestion was too frivolous. Please don't blame me, old man." The fisherman waved his hand and said, "I don't blame you. If I wanted to, I would have done it long ago. We each have our own standpoints, and we each serve our own masters, so we won't quarrel when we meet. When I feel like I'm about to leave, I'll go see old Fang and have a good drink with him. I'll listen to him scold me to his heart's content. That's the real joy then." "I hope that day will come later," Fang Yan said with a serious expression. Jiang Junling didn't feel jealous at all when his subordinates were fighting with the enemy. He listened to their conversation with great interest, as if he were one of them. Lan Shanggu also felt that the atmosphere was really strange, but he tried his best to keep a low profile and reduce his presence. After summoning the beauty in the palace dress to brew a pot of Longjing tea, she said to Fang Yan, "Young master, I'll go out to entertain them. Shall we have dinner here tonight?" "No need," Fang Yan refused. "If I eat here, you'll have to sit with me. If I busied myself with eating, I felt disrespectful to you, the host. If I keep thinking about what to say to you, I won't be able to eat smoothly. There's still leftovers at home. I'll go back and cook a few dishes." He wouldn't eat out. You don't have to leave, just be a witness. Lan Shanggu nodded and said, young master cooking personally, it's very romantic. Fang Yen wouldn't let him leave, so he could only find a corner to sit. Jiang Junling looked at Fang Yen and said with concern, just now, the fisherman said something. The white-haired person sending off the black-haired person, this is the greatest tragedy in life. The dead are gone, and the living are like this. Nothing is more sad than to ruin one's life. Fang Yan's eyes trembled slightly as he looked at Jiang Junling and said, this is indeed a sad and despairing matter. You clearly feel that you can control everything, but you can only watch as your loved ones die in front of you. If it's possible, I hope that this will only happen once in my life. What I've experienced has been experienced by others before, and in the future, there will be people who will experience it. If it's not someone else, it will be you. Fate is really a mysterious thing. Once the sickle in the hand of the Grim Reaper points at you, you can't run or hide. So, living like this is only one aspect. The key is to be strong, to accumulate virtue and do more good while you're alive. If you do too many bad things, the Grim Reaper's sickle will naturally hook onto your neck. Fang Yen used his own experience to point the spearhead at Jiang Junling. Those who do too much evil will bring about their own destruction. What happened to me will also happen to others. This kind of tragedy will never be the last time it happens. If the Jiang family still doesn't know how to stop and keep doing such immoral things, the Grim Reaper's sickle will definitely stretch onto their necks. At that time, even if you regret it, it will be too late. Jiang Junling nodded in agreement and said, that makes sense. Filial piety, loyalty, trust, propriety, justice, integrity, and shame. If any of them are missing, it will be difficult to support a person. Accumulate virtue, do more good, and do less bad things, then there will be peace at home and abroad. Jiang Junling retorted bluntly. The hidden meaning in his words was that if Fang Yen hadn't done too many bad things, no one in his family would have died tragically. If he still acted willfully and recklessly this time, then there would be no peace at home and abroad. Fang Yen was threatening Jiang Junling, and Jiang Junling was also threatening Fang Yen. As soon as they came into contact, swords were drawn. Lan Shanggu wished he could stick his head into his pants. Once again, he regretted sitting here. Why didn't he pretend to be dead and go to the hospital? Why didn't he say that he needed to change sanitary pads when he was on his period? Even if he was beaten twice on the head, it would still be much more relaxing and enjoyable than sitting here and watching Fang Yen and Jiang Junling stab each other. Lan Shanggu felt that he was really too pitiful. Fang Yen held a cup of Longjing tea in his hand, looked at Jiang Junling and said, if I were you, I would definitely not be stupid enough to provoke a powerful opponent at this time. Jiang Junling calmly looked at Fang Yen and said, when friends come, there is good wine. When enemies come, there is a hammer. Friend or enemy, I know very well. But Fang Yen raised his hand and splashed the cup of Longjing tea at Jiang Junling, who was sitting opposite him. Whoosh! The tea was like an arrow, piercing toward Jiang Junling's face. The old man in shades moved like a goshawk. With a wave of his wide sleeves, the cup of Longjing tea was taken away without a drop of rain. From beginning to end, the General Ling sat steadily in his original position, not showing any signs of panic or anger. He was like an emotionless stone Buddha. The old man in shades was on guard, but Fang Yen didn't make any further moves. Jiang Junling looked at Fang Yen and said, this kind of insult has no meaning. If even you say it's an insult, then it means that this kind of behavior will make you unhappy. I'm not a very promising person, but if I can make someone I don't like a little unhappy, I'll be very happy, Fang Yen said with a smile. Tell me honestly, do you feel a little unhappy in your heart? Jiang Junling nodded honestly and said, it's not just a little unhappy, it's very unhappy. No one has ever dared to pour tea on the face of a member of the general's family. In the eyes of the elderly, this kind of insult is very serious, and it must be paid with blood. In other words, I'll have to be more careful when I go out in the future? Just take it as a friendly reminder. Jiang Junling looked at Fang Yen and said, I sincerely wish for your family to be safe. Hearing Jiang Junling's threat again, Fang Yen couldn't help but laugh and said, You must have heard of this saying, the barefooted are not afraid of those who wear shoes. We've experienced it before, so we know how painful it is to lose a loved one. After knowing it, we hope that this feeling won't befall us again, but befall others. For example, those people who want to kill us. Jiang Junling, do you believe it? I'm really not afraid of tearing your neck off. When Fang Yan said this last sentence, the smile on his face had disappeared, and his voice was devoid of any emotion. His clear eyes became deep, and a frightening scarlet red appeared in his pupils. At this moment, Fang Yan was filled with killing intent, and he was as violent as a general who had just slaughtered thousands of enemy soldiers on the battlefield. Even the heart of Grand Mystery couldn't suppress such killing intent. Even Laozi's mind-clearing incantation couldn't get rid of such killing intent. The expression of the old man in sunglasses changed again, and he couldn't help but sit up, moving sideways toward Jiang Junling. This was to prevent Fang Yan's sudden attack from catching him off guard. The old man in sunglasses looked at Fang Yan and said angrily, "How did you get the smell of blood from practicing the Fang Tai Chi? In the past, your grandfather wrote to me, praising you as a rare martial arts prodigy. You've indeed lived up to expectations, comprehending the heart of Tai Chi at such a young age. Not only the Fang family, but also the famous Tai Chi clans all agree that you're the master of Tai Chi's resurgence. But look at what you're doing now. What are you practicing? You're going to lead Tai Chi down the wrong path." Fang Yan knew that the old man in sunglasses was really doing this for his own good. Old people at their age still had a strong sense of greatness, such as the resurgence of their country and culture. Fang Yan had grown up in such a family, so he had subtly inherited such emotional cognition. The red in Fang Yan's eyes slowly disappeared, and the hostility in his heart dissipated. Only then was he able to speak to the old man in sunglasses in a normal tone. He said, "I know that the way I practice is wrong, and I also know that I'm going down the wrong path, but I really have no other choice. My heart is full of hatred, and I'm full of killing intent. If I don't vent these feelings, I think I'll never be able to return to the right path. In 3 years, I haven't made any progress in my martial arts, and I haven't mastered my Qi. Grandfather is also very worried for me, and he has asked me countless times to let go of the knot in my heart and let go of the hatred. But how can I let go? How can I let go? The knot in my heart isn't to let go, but to untie it. The hatred isn't to let go, but to have an eye for an eye." Fang Yan opened his mouth and smiled at Jiang Junling, saying, "That's why I came out. I used my own method to untie the knot in my heart and let go of the hatred. Jiang Junling, in the future, when I'm good at martial arts, you'll definitely be my greatest benefactor." "I can't bear it," Jiang Junling said with a serious expression. At this moment, in his heart, Fang Yan was like a rabid dog that could pounce and bite someone at any time. He somewhat regretted coming to Huaqing at this time. Chapter 481. If he won, it would be natural, but if he lost, he would lose face. This was Jiang Junling's current situation, just like last time. He had already thought of this question. Why did he still come to Flower City? Because he thought that he would definitely win this time. There was no possibility of losing at all. Why are you regretting it now? Jiang Junling suddenly thought of this question. With his intelligence, he quickly came up with an answer that was 99% true. Because he was afraid. He was afraid that he wouldn't win, afraid that he would lose again. Facing Fang Yan, who was currently like a mad dog, Jiang Junling's strong heart loosened a little. Thinking that he was actually afraid, Jiang Junling became truly angry. This anger had nothing to do with others, but his disappointment in himself. He was growing, and so was Fang Yan. This was something he had already guessed long ago. He was no longer the normal Fang Yan, but so what? The big picture is in the hands of the heavens, and I am the one who succeeds. Compared to himself, how many trump cards does he have? This kind of negative emotion only lasted for a fleeting moment before it once again turned into a modest, proud, confident, and powerful General Ling. Jiang Junling looked at Fang Yan and said, "Since we've known each other for a long time, I wish you success in martial arts. However, I think we've both overlooked the real purpose of this meeting. We're here to trade, aren't we? Can't be overlooked, Fang Yen smiled and said. He held Lu Chaoga's hand and said, I brought the victim to the negotiation site to let you all feel the brutality and viciousness of those bandits. Look, how could they be so heartless as to lay their hands on such a beautiful and charming little woman? Everyone present was speechless. Who the hell would look at whether the hostage was a beautiful woman before kidnapping? The main thing was to see how much profit they could get from the hostage, all right? Fang Yen looked at Lan Shanggu and said, Lan Shanggu, if it were you, would you kidnap such a beautiful woman and cut off her hair to paint with her scalp? Lan Shanggu was shocked and said, Young master, don't joke with me like this. I am timid. I am a legitimate businessman in Lorne Valley. I don't do anything illegal. That wouldn't last long, and it would be easy for him to fall into the dish. Your whole body stinks. I'm afraid you've lost your life. Only now did Jiang Junling, Lan Shanggu, and the others learn about the details of the kidnapping. He thought to himself that Feng Xing and Qiang Longtan, these two old freaks, were really capable of doing anything. They had also done the extremely cruel thing of painting on their scalps. No wonder Fang Yen had something on them that could be used to make them beg for death. Since Fang Yen hated Feng Xing and Qiang Longtan so much, today's negotiation was naturally to cut off a piece of flesh from Jiang Junling. However, he didn't know if Jiang Junling would give in or not. If Jiang Junling wasn't willing to pay up, the fight between the two would become heated and protracted. Thinking of his position between the two, Lan Shanggu wanted to cry but had no tears. Who did he offend? Jiang Junling's eyes turned cold and said, Don't use groundless things to confuse people. People will laugh at you if this gets out. Jiang Junling's eyes moved to Lu Chaoga's face and praised, Miss Lu's hairstyle is very beautiful today. It complements your temperament, simple and elegant. Jiang Junling countered Fang Yan's words with the truth. Didn't you say that they cut off Lu Chaoga's hair to paint on her scalp? Lu Chaoga's hair was still there, which proved that every attack on their character was a lie. Fang Yan surely understood the meaning of Jiang Junling's words. He said, Groundless things? If I was a little bit later, you wouldn't have the chance to praise Miss Lu's hairstyle and temperament today. Fang Yan raised Lu Chaoga's injured hand and said, This dagger pierced through her palm. Even if it healed, an ugly scar would still be left on the back of her hand. Fang Yan then untied the silk scarf that was tied around Lu Chaoga's neck to cover those scars, looked at Jiang Junling and said, If I hadn't grabbed that dagger in time, Feng Xing's throat would have already been cut. The look in Lan Shanggu's eyes turned complicated. He finally understood the reason why Fang Yan asked him to stay. At the beginning, he thought that Fang Yan asked him to stay on the scene to be a buffer, in case he and Jiang Junling started a fight without saying a word. If that happened, the negotiation wouldn't go on. When he saw Fang Yan pick up the teacup in front of him and pour it towards Jiang Junling's face, he knew that he was wrong. Fang Yan didn't mean to negotiate with Jiang Junling at all. He was a madman who wouldn't even care about poking a hole in the sky. He didn't care about the power of the Jiang clan at all. Now he understood that Fang Yan asked him to be a witness. To witness the scars on Lu Chaoga's body, and also to prove that Qiang Longtan and Jiang Fengxing were the murderers behind the kidnapping of Lu Chaoga. Before, when Fang Yan said this, some people didn't believe him. Some people even thought that this was a drama directed and acted by Fang Yan himself. He was vicious and merciless, and even the people closest to him were his pawns. Now that Fang Yan showed up with Lu Chaoga, the meaning of his words was clear. These people were the ones who kidnapped Jiang Fengxing and Qiang Longtan. Every word he said was true. Otherwise, would Fang Yan really cut Lu Chaoga's neck a few times? Or would he stab the back of Lu Chaoga's hand with a knife? Fang Yan wanted to borrow his eyes and mouth. He wanted to spread what he saw with his own eyes, to let the people of Huaqing know that Fang Yan wasn't as evil and treacherous as they thought. Most importantly, Fang Yan wanted those who followed him or had the intention to follow him to know that his character was not as bad as they thought or what the rumors said. Every word and action of this guy had a hidden meaning. He really couldn't be underestimated. As expected, if Lan Shanggu could think of it, Jiang Junling could think of it in advance. Jiang Junling glanced at Lan Shanggu thoughtfully and said, one side of the story, you can't take it seriously. If you really want to get justice for Miss Lu, why don't you send my fourth uncle and Uncle Jiang here, and let the three parties confront each other face to face. What's wrong is wrong, and what's right is right after all. No matter how good their acting skills are, how can they hide from the eyes of everyone here? In this way, even if they spread the word to the outside, they would have a more straightforward and clear understanding. Gu, don't you think so? Lan Shanggu laughed and said, what's right is right after all, and what's wrong is wrong after all. I believe the truth will come to light one day. As long as people are still alive, the truth will never disappear. Jiang Junling smiled faintly. He knew that Lan Shanggu would give an answer that was biased towards Fang Yan's side. But whether or not to say it was very important. When Lan Shanggu spread the word, he still had to consider the attitude of the Jiang family on this matter. I think so too, Fang Yan said. A country has its laws and a family has its rules. If they break the law, they will naturally be handed over to the authorities to deal with. Oh right, when I came, I already sent those bandits to the police station. They are probably being interrogated now, right? Jiang Junling smiled without saying anything. He said, Fang Yan, why can't we just get to the point? Why waste your time and mine like this? You don't trust me to send them to the police station? Of course, Jiang Junling said. If you did, I would admire your selflessness. Fang Yan smiled shyly and said, you guessed it right. I really can't bear to send them to the police station. Jiang Fengxing is a big shot in the Jiang family. If he was sent to the police station as a kidnapper, the Jiang family's reputation would probably fall to the ground and be covered in dust, right? You won't get any compensation either. Between the two of us, who will suffer a greater loss? So, when Jiang Shangxin came to my house to ask for my help, I agreed to give you a chance. I have already stated the conditions. You can only do two things. Accept it or you have no choice but to accept it. I want to confirm a few things, Jiang Junling said. First, are they still alive? Them? Which one? My fourth uncle, Jiang Fengxing, and Jiang Zhuliu's father, Qiang Longtan. Are they still alive? Oh, they tied him up and threw him into the vast ocean. When I tried my best to find him, I only saw Jiang Fengxing and a few of his helpers. After a fierce fight, I finally subdued them. I've never seen the dragon pool before, but I've never seen it before. I don't know if they were thrown into the deep sea by your fourth uncle because they couldn't split the loot evenly. I don't know how to swim. Even if I could, I wouldn't jump into the sea to look for them. What does his life have to do with me, right? Lan Shanggu's hand trembled slightly as he held the teacup in his hand. Qiang Longtan was already dead? After Jiang Zhuliu's wedding, the Jiang family's reputation had been trampled into the abyss by Fang Yan. However, no one dared to underestimate the Jiang family. Because the Jiang family had Qiang Longtan, and because the Jiang family had the backing of the Jiang family. Who could guarantee that the Jiang family wouldn't be able to rise again? If Qiang Longtan was also dead, with just Jiang Zhulu, would he be able to carry the Jiang family's banner? Jiang Junling nodded and said, in other words, Qiang Longtan is dead? I said I don't know. The Jiang family still has to bear the crime of killing Qiang Longtan. You don't have to bear it. Fang Yan said confidently, if you don't want to bear it, then let someone else bear it. I don't like to force people. If that's the case. Jiang Junling looked at Fang Yan and said, I think your price is too high. We can only give you 10% of Longtu Group's shares at most. This is the highest price we can offer after discussing with Jiang Zhulu. Fang Yan helped Lu Chaoga up and said, as the victim's family, we refuse to accept such a humiliating price. Negotiation ends here. Before he finished, he was already holding Lu Chaoga's hand and walking towards the door of the private room. Chapter 482. Negotiations. Negotiations, of course, should be negotiated first. They haven't even had a proper negotiation, and they've already been sentenced to death. Who would want to do business with such a person? Do they have any morals? Do they have any professionalism? Do they have any negotiating spirit? Jiang Junling knew that Fang Yan was difficult to deal with, But he really didn't expect him to get up and leave as soon as he stated his conditions. What kind of insulting price was that? Who the hell was insulting who? Why do I feel like I'm being insulted too? Is he really not afraid that this negotiation will collapse? Or does he think that he has nothing to fear just because he has a hostage in his hand, and that he will definitely win this war? Seeing Fang Yan being so unscrupulous and not giving him any face, Jiang Junling's expression couldn't help but become even more hostile. He always thought that his cultivation was profound and his endurance was better than others. But every time he met Fang Yan, he would break through, and he really wanted to roll up his sleeves and fight 300 rounds with him regardless of his identity and image. He looked at Fang Yan's back and said aloud, "I think you may not understand some things. Do you know how much 10% of Longtu Group's shares are worth? With the good performance of the energy stocks in the market, its total market value will not be much lower than the current Chaoyan technology. How much can you get in Chaoyan? It can't be more than 10%, right?" Fang Yan suddenly turned around and stared at Jiang Junling. "In your heart, you think that 10% of Longtu Group's shares is already a lot, an astronomical number, enough to compensate for all our losses, but you definitely don't know what Lu Chaoga means to me." Fang Yan held Lu Chaoga's hand and said in a deep voice, "She is my friend, my family, Chaoyan's soul and everything. Without her, Chaoyan technology would not exist at all. I don't even have the chance to sit here and talk to you as equals. Such an important person was kidnapped by the Jiang family." Jiang Junling frowned and said, "She was not kidnapped by the Jiang family. Please watch your words. Is Jiang Fengxing not a member of the Jiang family? Didn't you just call him fourth uncle? Jiang Fengxing is a member of the Jiang family, and he is indeed my fourth uncle. However, the Jiang family belongs to all members of the Jiang family, not just one person. Other than two people, no one else can stand out and say that they represent the Jiang family. Besides, the truth is still unclear. Before I see fourth uncle, I don't believe that the Jiang family kidnapped Miss Lu Chaoga." "If that's the case," Fang Yan sneered, "why are you negotiating with me? I'll hand them over directly to the police station. You can bring your family to the police station to visit them and understand what happened. Isn't that easy for you? Why did you come to my house and beg me to negotiate? If you don't do anything against your conscience, you won't be afraid of ghosts knocking on your door. But if you've done too many things against your conscience, even the slightest movement outside will make you paranoid and restless? Fang Yan, you are testing my patience. Jiang Junling, don't put on a high and mighty face in front of me. If I cared about your identity, I wouldn't have beaten you black and blue 3 years ago. What's right is right, and what's wrong is wrong. You've done wrong, so you have to receive the punishment you deserve. Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you have a special identity. You can do it with others, but not with me. As the victim's family, we have the final say on whether we are satisfied with the compensation, not you, the perpetrator, decide. Now, I can tell you very clearly that I am very dissatisfied with this result." General Ling took a sip of tea from his teacup and said, 20%. 30%, Fang Yan said. "I've already stated the conditions. Only by reaching this condition will we feel a little more balanced. Although I think it still can't compare to the losses we've suffered. Longtu Group's future valuation is far from Chaoyan technology. Can 30% of Longtu Group's shares be compared to all of Chaoyan Technology's shares? Everyone knows that if something happens to Lu Chaoga in this kidnapping incident, Chaoyan Technology will suffer a fatal blow. Don't you feel that you've taken advantage of me by stating such a merciful condition?" Jiang Junling pondered for a moment and said, "Fine. 30%. I promise you. But the condition is that you let her go first. Only after you let her go, will I ask someone to transfer the shares of Longtu Group to you." Fang Yan took Lu Chaoga's hand and sat back down. He said, "That's not a problem." Jiang Junling looked at Fang Yan and asked, "Where do we pick her up?" "South Sea," Fang Yan said. Rumble. The off-road vehicle's engine roared, and the vehicle bounced up and down, continuously conquering one protrusion or pit after another. This was an undeveloped road that extended infinitely along the coastline of Huaqing. It was sparsely populated, and it was not conducive to driving. Jiang Zhulu was used to sitting in luxury cars with excellent shock absorption. His body was bounced up and down again, repeating this process over and over again. It made him feel as if his internal organs were being moved. He resisted the nausea and the urge to lie by the window and vomit to his heart's content. He tried his best to look calm and composed, as if nothing had happened. At this time, Jiang Zhulio's heart was especially sensitive, and he needed other people's respect and approval even more. The driver was an experienced driver. His movements were skilled and agile. Even on such a difficult road, he could still drive the car at high speed, which was enough to show his superb skills. Sitting in the front passenger seat was a middle-aged man in a black suit. When they first met, he introduced himself as Eagle King and was the main person in charge of searching for the target in the team. Sitting side by side with Jiang Zhulu were two big shots of the martial arts world. One was the Tai saber god, Li Wanfu. It was said that his Tai saber was superb, and he could use 13 sabers at most. As the leader of the Lover's School, he had a great reputation. The other big shot was the Grandmaster, Bao Shi, who had fought with Feng Yan in the 10 feet abyss and was beaten into a coma by Feng Yan. In the past, Jiang Zhulu did not have much of a good impression and understanding of these martial arts figures. Now that it was a society governed by law, no matter how good their martial arts were, would they come and beat him up for no reason? Only now did Jiang Zhulu gradually realize the importance of these people. For example, he was here to pick up Jiang Fengxing and his father. If it were not for these powerful people accompanying him, he would not have the courage to come to such a place to pick them up alone. Li Wanfu and Bao Shi were sitting in the car with their eyes closed, as if they had fallen asleep. Their bodies were moving up and down with the bumps of the car, but there was nothing strange on their faces. Their bodies were integrated with the car, going up and down at the same time with ease. Screech! The car suddenly braked and stopped at the edge of a high cliff. Eagle King was the first to get out of the car. He glanced at the satellite positioning system on his wrist and said, "The agreed place for the transaction is here." Jiang Zhulu opened the car door and got out. He really could not stand the stuffy air in the car. He took in big mouthfuls of the salty and humid sea air, which made his body feel slightly better. The feeling of vomiting that was about to gush up to the corner of his mouth disappeared, allowing him to save some face. Jiang Zhulu walked to Eagle King's side and looked at the vast deep blue sea. He said, "Where are they? Why don't I see anything?" "There are still 5 minutes left," Eagle King said. "We arrived 5 minutes earlier than the agreed time." Jiang Zhulio's phone rang in his pocket. He glanced at the caller ID and saw that it was Jiang Junling. He answered the phone and said, "Young master, we have arrived at the destination, but we haven't seen fourth uncle and the others yet." "Be careful," Jiang Junling said and hung up the phone. As soon as the call ended, a cruise ship sailed over the sea. Everyone was shocked. The people they had been waiting for had finally arrived. Eagle King took the lead and walked toward the coastline under the cliff, and Jiang Zhulu followed closely behind. Li Wanfu and Bao Shi also got off the ship and followed behind Jiang Zhulu, one in front and one on the right. The purpose of their trip was to ensure Jiang Zhulio's personal safety. The cruise ship arrived in the blink of an eye and anchored at the edge of the stone bridge, which seemed to have been in disrepair and had been corroded beyond recognition by the seawater. A thin man jumped off the ship and tied the rope in his hand to the pillar of the stone bridge. Then he stood at the bridgehead and coldly waited for Jiang Zhulu and the others to arrive. Jiang Zhulu rushed to the front and asked the thin man, "Where are they?" "On the ship," Snake Lord said. "I want to go up and take a look," Jiang Zhulu said. "Make the deal first." Snake Lord stood in the middle of the stone bridge, not letting them go over. "I don't see them. How can I make the deal?" Jiang Zhulu said unwillingly. The Serpent King whistled, following which, a man in black clothes dragged Feng Xing onto the deck. The man in black took off the blindfold from Feng Xing's head and pulled out the black cloth from his mouth. After that, Feng Xing immediately started yelling out, "Zhulu, help me! Zhulu, help me!" "Where are the others?" Jiang Zhulu asked. "No one else," Snake Lord said with a smile. "Don't go too far. You took my father away as well. We don't see your father, Snake Lord said. Maybe he was thrown into the sea to feed the sharks? He felt that these rich people were very strange. On the surface, they seemed to be loyal and affectionate, but secretly, they were thieves and prostitutes. What couldn't they do? I'll kill you. Jiang Zhuliu's eyes were blood red, and he looked like he wanted to kill Snake Lord. Eagle Eye rushed in front of Jiang Zhulu and said, "Let's make the deal first." Eagle Eye looked at Snake Lord and said, "Give him to me. The boss will sign the transfer of shares." Snake Lord smiled and shook his head. The more I meet people, the more I feel that they are not as loyal and reliable as my little snakes. What if you don't sign after I give him to you? Let your boss sign first, then the ship and the people on it are all yours. Chapter 483. Eagle King sneered, his eyes as sharp as a vulture's. You have your considerations, we also have our concerns. What if we sign it but you don't give it to us? That is indeed a problem. Snake Lord thought about it seriously. This problem is too profound, my IQ is low, I really can't think of a good solution. How about we cancel today's deal? After saying that, Snake Lord jumped towards the cruise ship behind him. Eagle King's body trembled in anger. What kind of attitude is this bastard? Do we need to beg you to make a deal? Want to leave? Li Wanfu shouted, his body like a rock spreading its wings, leaping into the air. His hands turned into eagle claws, swiftly grabbing towards Snake Lord's nape. Vajra subduing Dragon Claw. This was an inner sect technique of the Mandarin Duck sect, extremely powerful. The wind howled, the energy was like a knife. Li Wanfu's hands were faintly red. It was the phenomenon of internal combustion when he used his internal energy to the extreme. With his internal energy cultivation, if he really did grab a human body, it would be light injuries and broken bones, serious cases would be death on the spot. Li Wanfu had a violent temper, it was very difficult to escape unscathed from his hands. More or less, a piece of flesh or some other body part would be left. Even if it was just a touch of energy, Snake Lord already felt a burning pain on his back. He was in midair, his strength exhausted. It was too late to turn around. But he didn't need to. His mouth let out a hurried flute sound. A small golden snake came out of his trench coat, hissing and pouncing towards Li Wanfu, who was full of murderous intent. Bastard! Li Wanfu was furious. He had been famous for a long time, his Tai saber was extremely powerful, he rarely met an opponent. Usually he lived like a prince, no one dared to touch him. He didn't expect a small snake to be so presumptuous in front of him. With a flick of his wrist, a small golden knife jumped into his hand. With a flash of golden light, the small golden snake screamed and was cut in half. After cutting the golden snake, Li Wanfu's speed didn't slow down, his saber momentum didn't stop, stabbing towards Snake Lord's back again. Whoosh! The Snake Lord suddenly turned around and threw a handful of white powder at Li Wanfu. Whoosh! Li Wanfu quickly withdrew his body, and the goshawk turned into a sparrow. His dantian exerted force once more, and his body quickly retreated. Quang quang quang, Li Wanfu's body once again landed on the broken bridge. Because the force of his forward charge was too strong, he retreated a little hurriedly. His body staggered back a few steps before he managed to steady himself. The two energies collided and clashed in his body, and a sweet taste of blood rushed into his throat. He pursed his lips and swallowed it back down. Bao Shi was enraged. As he was about to leap up and chase after Jiang Fengxing, the Snake Lord had already grabbed Jiang Fengxing's neck. Bao Shi snorted, but he could only stare at the Snake Lord coldly. Since we can't make a deal, let's part ways here, Snake Sovereign said with a smile. He stared at Li Wanfu, Bao Shi, and the others and shouted, "Set sail." Kacha! The cruise ship began to move. The Snake Lord flicked his sleeve, and a silver light flashed. The rope tied to the stone pillar of the broken bridge was cut into two pieces. One end was still tied to the stone pillar, while the other was swaying in the wind. Wait! Jiang Zhulu anxiously shouted. Let me make a call. Since it was something that Jiang Junling and Fang Yan had already discussed, It meant that they had already made a decision. What he needed to do now was to ensure the smooth success of this deal. Go ahead, Snake Lord said. Jiang Zhulu dialed Jiang Junling's number and said, Young master, I saw fourth uncle, but I didn't see my father. Zhulu, I already know about this. I didn't tell you because I wasn't sure yet, so I'm leaving this deal to you. I hope you can see it with your own eyes. Jiang Junling comforted him in a soft voice. No matter how bad the situation is, we're already mentally prepared. What others owe us, they will eventually pay us back. I understand, Jiang Junling said. The deal is in progress, they want young master to sign first. Give me 1 minute, Jiang Junling said. Jiang Zhulu hung up again and waited patiently. The cruise ship's engine roared, but it didn't start to leave. In less than a minute, Snake Lord received the message. He let go of Jiang Fengxing and said, The deal is done, this ship and the people on it are all yours. After that he dashed towards the other side of the ship. The people on the other side had already prepared a rubber boat. As soon as Snake Lord jumped on it, the rubber boat split the water and rushed towards the distant deep sea. Eagle King was the first to jump on the boat and threw the cruise ship's rope to them. Li Wanfu grabbed the rope and fastened it to the pillar of the broken bridge again. Li Wanfu and Bao Shi also got on the boat. One went to check the cabin to make sure the cruise ship was safe. The other went to the captain's room to check the direction of the cruise ship. Jiang Zhulu was the last to get on the boat. After rushing to the deck, he untied Jiang Fengxing and asked anxiously, Dad, how do you feel? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? I'm fine, Jiang Fengxing said weakly. If Jiang Zhulu didn't hold him up, he wouldn't have been able to stand at all. These days, every day felt like a year to him. Both his mind and body had suffered unimaginable torture. Where's my dad? Have you seen my dad? Jiang Fengxing shook his head and said, I don't know, we were separated on the ship. When I woke up, Dragon Pool was already gone. I never saw him again. Jiang Zhulio's eyes were red. He yelled towards the cabin, Mr. Bao, Mr. Li, have you seen my dad? No, Bao Shi said as he walked out. No, Li Wanfu yelled from the cockpit. There's really nothing left, Jiang Zhulu said hoarsely. There's really nothing left. He had already guessed that something bad had happened to his father, but he still had a glimmer of hope. Now that he saw Jiang Fengxing, who had disappeared with his father, but there was no trace of his father, he knew that his father was gone for good. He would never come back. Jiang Fengxing was also very sad. He put his hand on Jiang Zhulio's shoulder and comforted him. Zhulu, don't think too much. Maybe your father has already been rescued, or maybe he's been hidden by them. They're going to ask us for more benefits. Your father is not here, you are the pillar of the Jiang family. You have to take care of yourself. Don't let your body fall. I understand. Jiang Zhulu said with a hideous expression and blood-red eyes. I'm mentally prepared. That's good, Jiang Fengxing said tiredly. Let's go home. Let's go back. I don't want to stay in this damn place for one more second. Dad, you can't go back, Jiang Zhulu said in a low voice. What did you say? Jiang Fengxing's body shook. He vigilantly stared at Jiang Zhulu. He wanted to push Jiang Zhulu away and stand alone, but his legs were shaking. He couldn't bear the weight of his body at all. Jiang Zhulio's eyes became as fierce as a wolf's. He lowered his voice and said, Someone doesn't want you to go back. Jiang Zhulu raised a syringe that he had prepared earlier and suddenly pierced it towards Jiang Fengxing's heart. Jiang Fengxing felt as if he had been hit by a heavy blow. He wanted to say something, but his mouth was trembling and he couldn't say anything. His body twitched and a large amount of foam came out of his mouth. His body softly fell into Jiang Zhulio's arms. How good it would be if you died earlier, Jiang Zhulu said with a hideous smile. Jiang Fengxing couldn't hear his curses anymore, because his heart had stopped beating. Dad? Jiang Zhulu cried out. Dad, what's wrong? Dad, don't scare me. Help, help. After 3 rounds of tea, Fang Yan's phone on the table finally rang. Fang Yan took the phone and glanced at it. He looked at Jiang Junling, who was sitting opposite him, and said, Congratulations on our successful transaction. Jiang Junling looked at Fang Yan and said, Didn't we already have a successful transaction after you got the share transfer contract? At that time, it only represented that I got the Long2 Group's shares. Fang Yan smiled and said, only by receiving this message can my people leave safely. You're a good boss who knows how to care for your subordinates. Jiang Junling smiled faintly. But you're not a good man who knows how to love your family. Fang Yan said mockingly, Jiang Fengxing probably won't have a chance to go ashore anymore, right? Jiang Junling's expression was firm. He said, I don't understand what you mean. Whether it's you or the Jiang family, you won't allow Jiang Fengxing, a man who brought shame to the Jiang family, to come home, right? Jiang Junling lowered his head and drank his tea. He said calmly, Fourth uncle is a member of the Jiang family, my family. Of course, we want him to come home. But the sea is stormy. If something happens to him, what else can we do other than grieve? Fang Yan said with a face full of mockery, Stormy sea? Not only is the sea stormy, but it's also dangerous on land. Jiang Junling raised his head and looked at Fang Yan. His eyes narrowed and he asked in a deep voice, What are you trying to say? As a teacher, I won't say things like Huaqing is my territory. If you're a dragon, you have to coil up. If you're a tiger, you have to squat down. That's meaningless and makes me sound very vulgar. As a man with manners, I won't say things like Huaqing's traffic is bad and you have to be careful when crossing the road. That's a strong threat. But what I want to tell you is that from this moment on, Huaqing has entered the era of Fang Yan. Fang Yan smiled as he looked at Jiang Junling. He said, whether you like it or not, whether you accept it or not. In Huaqing, you'd better keep a low profile. I don't like people with high profiles. Except myself. Before Fang Yan left the room, he added. Chapter 484. I think those who like to use money or power to oppress people are nouveau riche. Like those who become rich overnight, their mentality is unbalanced, and it is difficult to control their inflated ego, causing them to do things that are irrational and have no bottom line. Fang Yan explained to Lu Chaoge with a serious face, I won't do such a thing. It's embarrassing. Lu Chaoge didn't answer, because she didn't know how to answer this question. Do I have money? Fang Yan looked at Lu Chaoge and asked. Yes, Lu Chaoge replied. Now, Fang Yan was really rich, a lot of money. Perhaps even he himself didn't know how much profit Chaoyan Technologies shares would bring him every day. Moreover, with Chaoyan Technologies' current valuation of tens of billions of dollars, if he was willing to sell his part of the shares, he could immediately become one of the billionaires in Wuxia. As long as he was willing, he could be on the Forbes rich list in minutes. Of course, most of the rich people on the list were actually unwilling to be on it. Do I have power? Fang Yan asked. Yes. Lu Chaoge nodded again. With the Rubik's Cube as the core and Chaoyan Technology as the carrier, Lu Chaoge helped Fang Yan create an alliance that gathered the interests of many parties. Whether it was the Lu family represented by Lu Shu or the Lan family represented by Lan Shan, they all had to surround Fang Yan and show their loyalty as much as possible. Not to mention, there was the unwavering support of the little girl from the Qin family. Now, Fang Yan could be described with two words. Monstrous power. I have money and power. Fang Yan looked at Lu Chaoge's beautiful eyes and said confidently, and in a situation where we are completely in the right, when I was facing Jiang Junling, wasn't my posture very elegant? Lu Chaoge thought about it and said with some embarrassment, it was all right. Was my tone very calm? Sort of. I didn't lose my temper with him, I didn't make a scene with him, I didn't jump up and gesture at his mother, pour the tea on him. Lu Chaoge said. Fang Yan's expression stiffened, and then a puzzled look appeared on his face as he asked, Really? Have I ever done such a thing? This time, Lu Chaoge nodded firmly. I remember now. I did do something like that. Fang Yan grinned. You saw it too. At that time, Jiang Junling was a little nervous when he faced me, so there was a layer of sweat on his face. I was worried that he was hot, so I wanted to help him cool down. I didn't expect the old man beside him to be even more greedy. He actually stretched out his sleeve and took the cup of tea away. Maybe old people are more afraid of heat. If you really want to explain it like that, the corner of Lu Chaoga's mouth slightly curled up, and there was a faint smile on her face as she said, "Then I choose to believe you." Fang Yen also smiled. His smile was clean and pure. "I am now a noble," Fang Yen said. "Yes." Lu Chaoga bowed slightly to Fang Yen and said, "Sir Fang Yen, will you still cook and wash the dishes tonight?" The two of them looked at each other and laughed unrestrainedly. They had been suppressed for too long, and they had been held hostage by hatred for too long. Every word was like a knife, and every gaze was hidden with murderous intent. Lu Chaoga hated the people around him who coveted the Rubik's Cube and could endanger his life at any time. Fang Yen hated the killers who took away his life and the joy of his family. At this moment, they were smiling from the bottom of their hearts. There was no hatred, no murderous intent, only a feeling of complete relaxation in both body and mind. Lu Chaoga reached out and held Fang Yan's hand. She looked straight into Fang Yan's smiling eyes and said softly, "Fang Yan, I like you like this. You don't know, when I saw you again 3 years later, how scary your gaze was. At that time, my hands and feet were cold, as if I was being stared at by a terrifying monster. Although it was just a glance, and you changed very quickly, it still left me with a lingering fear. I can understand your life in the past 3 years, and I also know what you have been through these years. At that time, I felt that you were both strange and familiar. I was afraid and pitiful. I reached out and held your hand. I wanted you to feel my strength, to feel my warmth, to make your heart feel a little better, so that you were not so murderous. And when you were talking to Jiang Junling just now, your expression was ferocious, and your pupils were bloodshot. You were like a werewolf who could pounce on others at any time, bite off their blood vessels and drink their blood. The murderous intent in your eyes was too strong, and the hostility in your heart was too heavy. At that time, I felt that I was looking at a complete stranger." The smile on Fang Yan's face was still there. He looked lovingly at Lu Chaoga, who was holding his hand tighter and tighter. He could feel her wholehearted care, and he could also feel the worry that she had not spoken out. From the first day they met, he knew that she was worried about his emotions and his psychological state. She was worried about everything about him. But as smart as she did not say anything. What could you say to a barrel of dynamite? She just used her consideration to take care of Fang Yen, and her gentleness to melt Fang Yen. She hoped that the volcano would cool down. She hoped that the dynamite would stop. She hoped that Fang Yen could return to the state that he wanted in the end. However, before she could do more, she was kidnapped. She thought that she needed to go through another course of treatment. She thought that everything would have to start again. But what made her ecstatic was that Fang Yen actually walked out on his own. Although it was just a tentative step, this foot could be pulled back at any time. But she knew that their opportunity had come. It was today and it was now. She chose to have an open and honest talk with Fang Yen. She thought that she had made the right bet, and she also hoped that she had made the right bet. "Fang Yen, I don't know how to resolve the murderous intent in your heart, and I don't know how to make the hostility in your heart disappear. I don't care about the life and death of Jiang Junling or anyone else, and I don't care about the life and death of anyone else, but I care about you. How can your body bear so many things? Fang Yen, you are not that kind of person. You have always been a simple and kind man. You are very smart, but you use your intelligence on the things that you like. You know how to strategize, but you never abuse your intelligence to hurt the innocent. There are too many bad people in this world, but too few good people. Don't squeeze into the group of bad people and be a good person, isn't that good? That's the only way you'll be truly happy. You can laugh heartlessly, you can say things that make people very angry but also very funny, and you can do things that others can't think of and can't do. This is the Fang Yen, this is the you that I know." Lu Chaoga held Fang Yan's hand tightly, as if she wanted to pull the previous Fang Yen out. "Fang Yen, you are too tired now. You are tired, and those of us who care about you are tired too," Lu Chaoga said emotionally. "If you laugh, we will laugh too." Fang Yen held Lu Chaoga's beautiful hand back, and it was a promise to her. "I like quiet, simple, and poetic life, where I can see the golden sunlight and breathe the fresh air the moment I open my eyes. Lu Chaoga's eyes lit up, and she said, "Yes, this is the Feng Yen, this is the state of life that you should find back. Wait for me to kill all those bad people," Feng Yen said with a serious expression. Seeing that Lu Chaoga's face was full of worry again, Feng Yen pretended to be in deep thought and said, "However, when you take revenge, you can also enjoy life, right?" In the funeral parlor, Jiang Shangxin suddenly felt a heart-wrenching pain as she looked at the cold face of the man on the morgue. This was her father, the father who gave birth to and raised her, the father who bought her countless toys and taught her to sing nursery rhymes and play games. He was also the man that she was most attached to and liked when she was young. At that time, he was her sorcerer and guardian knight. As she grew older, she knew more and more things, and her feelings for her father became weaker and weaker. In the end, she went to school, studied abroad, and had her own company and career. Sometimes, she didn't even see her father for a year. She didn't feel that anything was wrong, and whoever left could live equally well. Moreover, that was a man who made her carry the shame. Now he was gone. He would never talk to her again, he would never let her take care of herself again, he would never call her when he was drunk and say that his daughter's father missed her again. She could never do anything again. This was the last side, and very soon, the corpse would be incinerated into a pile of ashes. This was the final fate of humans. However, to her and her father, wasn't this moment a little too early? The bones in both legs were fractured, and they were then fixed with splints as a disguise. The fatal injury was caused by a heart defibrillator. This drug is very popular in the European black market, and it is an advanced poison that can cause rapid heart failure. If one is poisoned by this drug, there is basically no cure. Because there is simply no time, the doctor in charge of the autopsy reported to Li Yun in a low voice. "Madam, please restrain your grief." "You may leave," Li Yun said expressionlessly. The doctor nodded and quickly left the morgue that made one feel extremely suffocated. He felt that it was very strange. This wasn't his first time performing an autopsy, and he was more familiar with corpses than with women's bodies. In the past, he could do it with ease, but why did it feel so strange today? Perhaps it was because the employer this time was too powerful. Li Yun glanced at Jiang Zhulu and said, "Zhulu, what's going on?" "When I arrived, Dad could still talk to me, and he even shouted for me to save him. After we finished the deal with Feng Yen, he fell on top of me. At that time, I still didn't know what happened," Jiang Zhulu explained with a sorrowful expression. "I believe you." Li Yun's gaze was as sharp as a knife. "But I hope this is the last time." Chapter 485. You can act, I'll act too. Everyone is shameless anyway. One of them acted innocently, while the other acted passionately. This was something that everyone was happy to see. Li Yun knew that Jiang Fengxing couldn't have been killed by Feng Yen or Feng Yan's men. Since Feng Yen had already agreed to the deal, there was no need for him to kill Jiang Fengxing. On the contrary, Feng Yen hoped that Jiang Fengxing could continue to live. Why wouldn't he be happy to let the Jiang family laugh at him? On the other hand, the Jiang family wasn't willing to let Jiang Fengxing live. Jiang Fengxing's failure was like a slap to the Jiang family. He kidnapped Feng Xing, but ended up being kidnapped instead. In the end, he used 30% of the shares of the Longtime group, which was controlled by Jiang Zhulu, one of his trusted subordinates, in exchange for Feng Xing. This was a humiliation to Feng Xing's family. If Feng Yen wanted to bring this up in the future, Jiang Fengxing would be a living witness. When that happened, not only would the Jiang family lose face, but they would also have to take the blame for him. If he was still alive, many people in the Jiang family would feel uncomfortable. At least, Jiang Junling, who flew to Huaqing but was suppressed by Feng Yen, would be very unhappy. Otherwise, why would Jiang Zhulu dare to do such a thing? Even if Jiang Fengxing was a dog of the Jiang family, as long as his surname was Jiang, he wouldn't be hurt by an outsider like Jiang Zhulu. Jiang Zhulu knew that Li Yun and Jiang Shangxi knew about it, but he had no choice. He needed a fig leaf to cover up not only his helplessness and embarrassment, but also everyone's feelings. Before they fell out with each other, they still had to show their emotions. Li Yun's voice was filled with murderous intent. She stared at Jiang Zhulu and said, "Jiang Zhulu, it's enough to do something like this once. I'm warning you, don't ever hurt Shangxin." Jiang Zhulu glanced at Shangxin, whose eyes were red. He said calmly, "Mom, your worries are unnecessary. Shangxin is my wife. I can't even protect her. How could I hurt her?" "I hope so." Li Yun glanced at Jiang Fengxing, who was standing on the morgue. After this glance, their fates had ended, and they would never see each other again. After Li Yun left, only the newlyweds, Jiang Zhulu and Jiang Shangxin, were left in the morgue. Jiang Shangxin stared at Jiang Fengxing's purple-blue face and asked, "Was he in pain when he left?" "Very calm." Jiang Zhulu said, "Very sudden. He was not prepared at all. It was very short, in the time it took to say a word." Tears rolled down from the corners of Jiang Shangxin's eyes as she gritted her teeth and said, "Jiang Zhulu, aren't you afraid that I will kill you?" After wiping away the tear at the corner of Shangxin's eye, he walked past Jiang Zhulu with an ice-cold expression, as if nothing had happened. Jiang Zhulu stood rooted to the ground, feeling a chill run down his spine. It was only now that he truly understood how difficult and sad the situation he had fallen into was. Looking around, there was no one around. This was probably what Jiang Junling wanted to see. He wanted to be a lone wolf. Just like what Fang Yan had said, he liked to live a simple, peaceful, and poetic life, where he could see the golden sunlight and breathe in the fresh air the moment he opened his eyes. Therefore, this was the life that Fang Yan was living now. He would wake up at 6 in the morning and go to the garden downstairs to exercise. After an hour of exercise, he would go to the kitchen to wash the rice and cook a pot of millet porridge. Then, he would go upstairs to shower and change his clothes. After washing up, he would go downstairs to make breakfast. Fried eggs, slices of bread, vegetable salad, or fruit salad. Of course, this type of breakfast was too monotonous. Fang Yan preferred a bowl of millet porridge with a few plates of pickled vegetables. He would also be able to grab a fried dough stick or a big meat bun and stuff it into his mouth. After he was done with all this, it was time for Lu Chaoge to get out of bed. The two of them would sit together to eat and chat about some relaxing and pleasant topics. After eating, Fang Yan was responsible for washing the dishes, and then he changed his clothes to go to school. Originally, Lu Chaoge wanted Qin Ying to drive the GMC RV to send Fang Yan to the car, but Fang Yan felt that it was too high profile. A school security guard driving such a luxurious car, wouldn't that make the headlines? Fang Yan's security guard had said that he was a low-key man. Therefore, the low-key Fang Yan drove Lu Chaoge's white BMW to school. Of course, Fang Yan also knew that this was not good. Therefore, he did not go through the school's main gate, but entered through the small gate of the family compound that was specially opened for the school teachers. After parking the car in the school's parking lot, he turned out and walked toward the school's gate. The work of the security guard was very tedious and simple. When students entered the school, they would check the students' appearance and discipline, whether they were wearing a tight fit, whether their skirts were too short, whether their hairstyles were too exaggerated and non-mainstream. Sometimes they would also check the students' school cards, and the names of the students who didn't bring their school cards would be recorded, and the homeroom teacher would come and pick them up. Of course, Fang Yan would not do this kind of thing. He sat in the security room, made a cup of fragrant tea, spread out a newspaper, roughly read the day's domestic and international news, and then walked around the school. If there were no gangsters or hooligans coming to cause trouble, or if there were internal fights, Fang Yan had almost nothing to do. Fang Yan was the most idle person in the entire Rosefinch Secondary. Zheng Chang, who stood at the door to check the students' discipline, poked Baldy's arm and said, "Director, isn't that what you should do?" The director of the security guard, Baldy, was full of bitterness, but his mouth was tough as he said, "As your leader, I naturally have to set an example. Suffer first, enjoy second. I'm a director, how can I compete with a young man for enjoyment? If I did that, would I have the status I have today? Don't learn from him, or else what future will you have in the future?" Xing Chang curled his lips and said, "What future do we need? We're just waiting for a rich woman to come and take care of us. Brat, Baldy patted Zheng Chang's head. Zheng Chang slipped away with a smile and ran to the security booth to help Fang Yen fill the teacup that he had just taken a few sips of. At 9 o'clock, the school's bell rang. Most of the students had already entered the classroom, and there were still a few who were late rushing over. After finishing his work, Baldy walked to the security booth and sat next to Fang Yen. He said with a smile, "Mr. Fang, how is Headmaster Lu?" "You mean Chaoga? She's not old," Fang Yen said. I didn't mean that, Baldy's but seemed to be on fire, and he began to fidget. "How can Headmaster Lu be old? In terms of age and appearance, she should be my sister. I'm talking about honorifics. Fang Yen looked at Baldy's appearance and thought that if Lu Chaoga heard what he said, the head of the security department would probably be replaced on the spot. However, for the sake of their friendship, Fang Yen was still willing to help Baldy keep his position. "Are you nervous?" Fang Yen looked at Baldy with a smile and asked. Baldy wiped the sweat off his forehead and smiled. He looked at Fang Yen with a flattering expression and said, "You don't say, I'm a little nervous. You can't understand how prestigious Headmaster Lu is in our hearts. If she's not happy, I won't be able to keep my position. Do you know how old I am this year? I've been in Rosefinch High for most of my life, and I've only been promoted to a security captain. I'm ready to retire from this position. I can't just erase it because of one sentence. Wouldn't that be a big loss for me?" Fang Yen patted Baldy's shoulder and said with a smile, "Don't worry. No one is going to take your position as the security captain." "Really?" Baldy was overjoyed. He held Fang Yen's hand and said, "Are you saying this on behalf of Headmaster Lu?" "I'm only representing myself." Fang Yen pulled his hand back. There was a trace of disappointment on the Baldy's face as he said, "Then I feel much more at ease. Headmaster Lu is a good person. Although she hardly comes to school now, she's still the most respected old leader in my heart." "If you say she's old, I'm afraid she really can't be the security captain anymore." Fang Yen said with a smile. Baldy quickly covered his mouth and said, Not old. Headmaster Lu isn't old at all." Then he pulled Fang Yan's hand and said, "Mr. Fang, let me treat you to lunch. There's a restaurant opposite the school that makes good pickled fish." "No need. I still have to go back to cook," Fang Yan said. Baldy's eyes were full of little stars. He said, "I really envy you. You must take care of Headmaster Lu's health so that she doesn't have to worry when she works. If you need any help, just let me know. I'll go through fire and water for you." Fang Yen smiled bitterly and said, "I'm just cooking a meal. There's no need for you to go through fire and water for me. Then I'll go make soup and light the fire. There's always a place where I'll be needed." Baldy persistently promoted himself. While the two were chatting, a girl wearing a heavy Rosefinch secondary uniform passed by their security booth. After the girl walked by, she quickly turned back. She knocked on the window and said with a smile, "Mr. Fang, we meet again." Fang Yen looked at the girl with delicate eyebrows and said with a smile, "Hello. We meet again. Do you remember who I am now?" the girl asked with a smile. "Suchi," Fang Yen said. The girl's eyes lit up and said, "I didn't expect Mr. Fang to remember. That's so nice." Fang Yen smiled faintly and said, "I'll try my best to remember more students' names. Of course, I can't remember most of them. There are too many students in the school." "I don't care, just remember my name," Suchi said with a giggle. "Mr. Fang, do you have time tonight?" Chapter 486. Baldy's face was full of vigilance. He put his bald head in front of Fang Yen and said to Suchi in an angry voice, "Miss, if you have something to say, just come at me. Let go of Mr. Fang. Mr. Fang is very busy." Baldy was very angry. Baldy was very desperate. Was this society sick? How could little girls nowadays be so active? The social atmosphere was so good in the past. He had been sitting in front of the security booth for more than 10 years, and he had never experienced such an embarrassing thing. It was peaceful and steady, and he had never encountered such embarrassment and danger. Besides, with Baldy's keen eyes and extremely smart brain, How could he not know what the little devil in front of him was thinking? She wanted to hook up with Fang Yan. This was absolutely not allowed. Fang Yan was Principal Lu's. Fang Yan was his brother, and he was Principal Lu's man. Therefore, he was the brother of Principal Lu's man. As long as Fang Yan was there, he could be the head of security until he retired. If Fang Yan was seduced by some little goblin inside or outside the school, Principal Lu would be angry. Wouldn't he be the head of security on his head in minutes? Who asked him to be Fang Yan's brother? No, he absolutely couldn't let them get away with it. He couldn't even think about it, and he couldn't even try. Baldy had already decided, for the sake of his official hat, he was even willing to bear the humiliation and sacrifice his clean body. It was really hard to be a man these days. Baldy was very sad and angry, but his attitude was very firm. Unfortunately, there was no place for him to use his hot-bloodedness. Because Su Qi didn't look at him at all. From the beginning to the end, her eyes were fixed on Fang Yan's face that was too calm. I really want to know what you have experienced, Su Qi said with a smile. A normal man, when a little girl takes the initiative to pursue him, and it's a girl who is not too ugly, won't he more or less be secretly happy or moved? Why don't you have any strange emotions? Sitting there, he looked like a monk with 6 pure and unmoved hearts. Fang Yan looked at Su Qi with a warm smile on his lips and said, "What you did, someone else has done it before, and she was braver than you." That day, the wind was gentle and the sun was bright. She wore a white shirt and a blue skirt. Her eyes were soft, but there was also a sense of ambition in them. She stood on the podium and said in a clear voice in front of the whole class, "I want to be closer to you and see you more clearly." That day, it was drizzling and the ancient alley was quiet and secluded. She was wearing a white cheongsam with floral patterns and holding an oil paper umbrella as she walked over. Her red high heels knocked on the stone pavement and also knocked on the man's heart. Over and over again until he was exhausted. She fell into Fang Yan's arms and said, "I'm not a prop, I'm the female lead." The 10-feet abyss was attacked, and they were kidnapped. Their lives were in danger. When he was fighting with someone, a bullet was shot at the back of his heart. She used her thin and weak body to pounce on him. Her white shirt was stained with blood, but she smiled sweetly and said, "I'm not as good as her, so I can only help you block the knife." The ingenious maintenance at the airport, the patient waiting in the wind and snow, the dozens of miles of walking in Yanjing City at night, the bowl of lamb stew noodles, and the parting words, "I wanted to repay you before, but now I want to protect you." That kind of deep love that moved the heaven and earth, that kind of selfless sacrifice that penetrated deep into the bones, day after day, year after year, when did it ever stop? A smile that shocked the immortals, as ethereal as a god. Looking back once, can make a person immersed in it for a lifetime. Su Qi's appearance had no meaning to Fang Yan. If he had to find a meaning, it would be that he missed Qin Yitian very much. The person who hid his figure behind the scenes, but became the biggest support that supported Chao Yan and himself. Fang Yan was not a fool, nor was he an idiot. If it wasn't for the Qin family's support, how could the Jiang family still be helpless against him? If it wasn't for the close relationship between him and Qin Yitian, they could have used an even more extreme method to solve this transaction. Qin Yitian. Qin Yitian. No one was Qin Yitian, only Qin Yitian was Qin Yitian. "I don't have time." Fang Yan directly refused. These students were too dangerous. He didn't want to have too much interaction with them. "I knew you would say that." Su Qi didn't care at all. She took out an envelope from her bag and said, "Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin's Treading on Snow and Searching for Plum, classical music concert. I'm sure you wouldn't want to miss it, right?" Fang Yan was stunned. Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin's concert? Those two girls came back to Huaqing? What? Baldy's eyes widened, and he said excitedly, "You mean the Arisima group? Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin? They're going to hold a concert in Huaqing? How come I didn't know about this? Oh my god, they're famous stars from our Huaqing. I really like them." "Oh right, miss, is that their concert ticket in your hand?" Seeing Fang Yan's slightly surprised expression, Su Qi thought Fang Yan was moved. She knew that going too far was as bad as not going far enough, so she wouldn't force him. Instead, she put the envelope on the table in front of Fang Yen and said with a smile, "This is a good location, let's go enjoy this musical feast together." Su Qi waved her hand and said, "Goodbye, Mr. Fang." Then, she turned and walked towards the direction of the classroom. She walked slowly and didn't care when the bell rang for a long time. When Su Qi was far away, Baldy's face was full of excitement, and his eyes were shining as he looked at Fang Yen and said, Mr. Fang, I know you have something to do tonight, and someone needs to take care of Principal Lu. How about? Fang Yen looked at Baldy and said, "Take it." "Thank you, Mr. Fang." Baldy grabbed the concert ticket and shouted excitedly, "That's great, that's great, I love Arasima so much. Those two beautiful girls, sitting there in ancient clothes, they make me forget all my worries, they're my idols. What do you think I should wear to meet them tonight? I did buy a suit during Chinese New Year, but the color is too dark, it makes me look too old." Fang Yen originally wanted to take Baldy to see the two little girls, Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin, but after seeing Baldy's performance, he gave up this irrational idea. This guy was really embarrassing. After Fang Yixing died in battle, Xiaxia took Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin to visit him at Swallow Dock. The two little girls accompanied Fang Yen at Swallow Dock for a long time, and they never left Fang Yan's mother, Lu Wan. Because the last time they came, Lu Wan also liked them the most, and treated them as her own daughters. Later, when they returned to the capital to study, they often went to Swallow Dock to visit Fang Yen. Later, they became busier and busier, and the number of times they came to visit Fang Yen also decreased. At that time, Fang Yen rarely spoke, and it was the two of them who surrounded Fang Yen and chatted. They said they learned Guzheng, they said they learned Sun, Panshao, and Guqing. They talked about who they had learned from and which master had taught them. They said they participated in some program with Sister Xiaxia, and the live performance was very intense. They said they wanted to go out to practice, and Sister Xiaxia said she wanted to make a group for them. Even though Fang Yen had been mourning in Swallow Dock for 3 years, he still knew how popular the two little girls, Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin, were now. Fang Yen gave Su Qi's ticket to Baldy, but he still decided to come to see Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin's Looking for Plum in the Snow concert. He wanted to see their growth over the years and see their glory tonight. They called him teacher, so he wanted to witness all kinds of beauty of his students. He came in a joyful mood. For many people, the tickets to the Arasima group's concert were hard to get. For the current Fang Yen, if he wanted a ticket to the concert, it was just a matter of saying a word. Fang Yen just mentioned it to Lu Chaoga, and Qin Ying went out and brought back a stack of tickets. Lu Chaoga's injury had not recovered, and she was not willing to come out to participate in such activities. She also wanted to talk to Fang Yen and his students. Fang Yen could only come alone. He held the thick stack of concert tickets and didn't know who to give it to. Fang Yen drove the car to the venue of the concert, Tianhe Music Hall. As the car approached Tianhe City, he saw a large number of fans in Hanfu or Cheongsam rushing towards the direction of the music hall. Most of them were very young, and their faces were full of excitement and joy. Fang Yen had just seen such an expression on Baldy's face. Some people said that classical music was too niche. Except for a small number of fans, it was difficult to walk into the ordinary people, and it was difficult to walk into the hearts of young people. But now Fang Yen understood that it was not that classical music was too niche, but that it had not encountered really good music. It was not difficult to walk into the hearts of young people, but you had to find a way to make young people like you and accept you. Fang Yen saw the success of Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin from the eyes of those young people, and saw the success of classical music. He also saw the success of Summer. That superstar-like figure, when she stood at the peak of Hua Xia's music, still shouldered a more important responsibility and mission. She wanted to lead Hua Xia classical music to stand at the peak of world music. Such a beautiful thing, such a magical treasure, she should not be annihilated in the long river of history, but should bloom with a more dazzling brilliance. Jiang Qin, I love you. Yuan Lin, it's you, Arasima, I love you, Arasima, my heart. the fan group held the love banners of the Arasima group and the ancient costumes of Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin, and shouted from time to time. Fang Yen smiled, parked the car in the parking lot, and walked towards the VIP passage of the music hall. At this moment, a beautiful little girl blocked in front of Fang Yen. Chapter 487. The girl looked young, but she had heavy makeup on and was wearing a sexy short skirt that did not match her image at all. The girl stood in front of Fang Yen and asked with a sweet voice, "Uncle, are you also here to see the Arasima concert?" Fang Yen nodded and looked at the girl with a puzzled expression. "Do we know each other?" The girl giggled and extended her hand to Fang Yen. "We didn't know each other before, but can't we get to know each other now? My name is Louis. How should I address Uncle?" Fang Yen was sure he didn't know this girl, so he didn't shake hands with her. He looked at the girl and asked, "What's the matter?" The girl's expression suddenly became resentful. She stomped her feet and said, "Uncle, why are you so annoying? I just want to get to know you. I've already extended my hand, but you don't even shake hands with me. I asked for your name, but you don't say it. Are you a gentleman? You don't know how to be kind to the fairer sex." Fang Yen looked at the girl and went around her to check the tickets. "This person is sick." "Hey, Uncle," Lu Yi once again blocked in front of Fang Yen with a very professional smile on her face. "Uncle, I saw you came to see the Arasima concert alone. Don't you think it's boring without a female companion? I'll go in with you, okay?" Fang Yen looked at the girl and shook his head. "Thank you. I'm fine by myself." "Uncle," the girl shouted coquettishly. Seeing that Fang Yen wanted to leave, she grabbed Fang Yen's arm and said, "Can you take me in? I also want to see the Arasima concert. Let's go watch the concert first, then go out for supper, okay?" Fang Yen thought for a bit and stopped to look at the girl in front of him. "Which school are you from?" Fang Yen asked. Lu Yi's eyes looked away in panic and said, "Uncle, why are you asking me which school I'm from? Don't you like students? Don't all the uncles nowadays like to date students?" "I'm asking you which school are you from?" Fang Yen raised his voice and said with a stern expression. Lu Yi's body trembled. She didn't dare to refuse Fang Yan's question. She said softly, "I'm from the Huaqing Music Academy. Because I like the classical music of the Arasima so much, I wanted to follow you in to have a look. If the one you met today wasn't me, but any other man, you would have begged to go in with them, wouldn't you?" Fang Yen asked coldly. "That's not it," Lu Yi explained in a low voice. "I've been standing here for a long time. Those who can enter the VIP passage are all wealthy people. In their eyes, a ticket isn't worth much. I'm not the kind of man who would beg for a ticket. I'm looking for a man who is pleasing to the eye and comes alone. Such a man generally won't reject a female companion, and then go for supper." Fang Yen looked at the girl's thick eyeshadow and asked aloud. With a shy expression, Louis said, "Uncle, don't misunderstand. I only said to go for supper, I don't mean anything else. If you don't mean anything else, then do the men around you also don't?" Fang Yen asked in return. "I think it's okay. Rich people still have manners." Fang Yen sneered and said, "That's because you haven't seen rich people without manners. It doesn't feel good to be interrogated like this, right?" Fang Yen asked aloud. "Yes," Lu Yi said in a low voice. "You didn't expect to meet a man like me? They would either agree or directly refuse, because you're trading yourself as a commodity. Who would talk nicely to a commodity? Who would pay any attention to a commodity? There's nothing in this world that comes without sowing. If you want to gain something, you have to pay something. You want a ticket to watch the Arasima concert, so you have to pay with your dignity or something more important. Because you're a commodity, you don't have the right to bargain. Uncle, I'm not going in with you. I'm going back to school right now, Lu Yi said with red eyes. She wanted to leave. Fang Yan's words were so harsh that she felt like they were piercing her heart. "Wait," Fang Yan called out. Lu Yi turned around to look at Fang Yan and asked, "Uncle, is there anything else?" "You're from Huaqing?" Fang Yan asked. From the girl's voice, he could tell she had a Huaqing accent. My family is from Huaqing, but our family's financial situation isn't very good, Lu Yi said with a wronged voice. Because your family's financial situation isn't very good, you want to take a shortcut? Call your parents, Fang Yan said. What? Tell them you want to invite them to the Arasima concert? But do as I say. But, don't make me repeat myself, Fang Yan said with a straight face. It's a waste of my saliva, they'll think I'm trying to convince them. Lu Yi didn't ask any more, took out her phone from her pocket and dialed her mother's number. After Lu Yi hung up, Fang Yan took out 3 extra tickets from his pocket and gave them to her, saying, if you don't know how to love yourself, you'll never have self-respect. Accompany your parents to a concert, look at their faces, think about what they've done for you. Saying so, Fang Yan turned around and walked towards the VIP ticket counter. Uncle, your name. Fang Yan waved his hand and quickly disappeared from Lu Yi's sight. When Lu Yi's parents arrived, they saw their daughters sitting on the steps of the concert hall in a daze. Their clothes were simple, their faces were deeply wrinkled. Just like countless ordinary parents of ordinary children. This was what real life was like. Lu Yi's mother pulled her daughter up from the ground, patted the dust off her dress and said, silly girl, why are you sitting on the ground? It's cold on the ground, it's not good for a girl's body, what if you freeze? Lu Yi's father smiled, looked at the huge and luxurious building complex in front of him and said with some hesitation, Xiao Tao, why did you want to invite mom and dad to listen to this? I said no, but your mom insisted that we come to see. How much does it cost? How about you and your mom go in, and I won't go in? I'll take a few laps by the river, and when you're done, we'll go back together. Lu Yi held back her tears, held her mother's hand and said with a smile, it's free, this ticket is a gift from someone. You and my mom go in, I won't go in. That won't do. Or you and your mom go in, Dad, Lu Yi cried and said, just listen to me this time. You go in with my mom, I'll wait for you outside. We'll go home together later. But I'll go in with your mom. Lu Yi's father saw his daughter crying and panicked, and quickly said, don't cry. I'll go in, okay? Dad, thank you. Lu Yi put the 2 tickets in her hand into her father's hand and said, you guys go in quickly. The concert is about to start. You're in the VIP lounge. If you can't find a seat, ask the staff to take you in. Dad knows. This child, why did she start crying? Lu Yi stood still, watching her parents walk into the concert hall one after another. She gave the remaining ticket in her hand to a girl who was looking for a target and said in a low voice, if you don't know how to love yourself, you'll never have self-esteem. After saying that, she walked down the stairs. She will come in, rely on her own efforts to get in. Not in such a humiliating and cowardly way. In the backstage dressing room of the concert hall, countless staff members were busy nervously and orderly. This wasn't the first concert of the Arasima group, but it was the most important concert of the Arasima group. Because Huaqing was the hometown of the 2 members of the Arasima group, their advertising slogan was also, Homecoming Journey. The girls who had been popular for the past 2 years were going to show their talent in front of their parents, their neighbors, their teachers, and their friends, and accept their judgment. The significance of this event was extraordinary. If the media in Huaqing were to scold or criticize after the performance, what would happen to Jiangqin and Wang Lin? How would they, the team members, deal with this? Therefore, everyone was very serious, striving to make every detail perfect. The most relaxed should be the 2 people involved, Jiangqin and Wang Lin. They were sitting in front of the dressing table, doing their hair. Lin, are Uncle and Auntie here today? Jiangqin, who was happily eating a box of strawberries, asked. They're here. Wang Lin answered without looking up. I've already reserved the best seats for them. How could they not come when their precious daughter is playing in front of their house? Not only did they come, but they also paid for the tickets out of their own pockets. They even invited our family's aunts and relatives who couldn't be further away. Now do you understand why our Huaqing's tickets sell out so quickly? Because our old man booked the whole place. I don't believe it. Jiangqin said with a smile, our other tickets are also selling very well. Did your family book the whole place at that time? But my parents are here today, and they invited a lot of relatives to come and support. They've probably met and chatted by now. I really want to go and chat with them. My mom's physique has a tendency to grow. I told her to be careful, but she said she's fat now because she's relaxed. She even said that I'm biased. Why can my dad be fat but not her? Your mom is so interesting. I miss the braised pork trotters she made. I miss it too, Xianxia said. Her thoughts drifted far away and she said, Mr. Fong returned to Huaqing. I know. I wanted to send him an invitation. I thought about it too. But I'm afraid he hasn't gotten over it yet. Why should I make things difficult for him? He's been through too much these years. We met Sister Xia Tian because of Mr. Fong, and it's because of Mr. Fong that we embarked on this path, Wang Lin said with a sigh. Her gaze finally shifted away from the mobile game. If only Mr. Fong could come to our concert, that would be great. The strawberry in Jiangqin's mouth suddenly became tasteless. She threw the strawberry box on the dressing table with some annoyance and said, If only Mr. Fong came to our concert, that would be great. I really hope Mr. Fong could come. Chapter 488. Fong Yan's seat was on the second floor of the music hall, which was a small, independent box. These private rooms were specially prepared for celebrities, and dignitaries who did not want to be seen by the outside world. The reservation fee for each private room was very expensive. The box was separated by walls on both sides, and the outer layer was guarded by a wooden door. Only the direction facing the stage was empty. You could sit in the seats and enjoy the show, or stand up and lean on the railing to enjoy the performance at a closer distance. If you were well prepared in advance, you could even open a bottle of red wine or brandy and savor it with your family and friends. There were other boxes on both sides of the box, but no one needed to greet each other. Fong Yan looked at the seat. This was a small room for 4 people, and he might meet Lu Yi and her parents later. The concert hadn't started yet, but the audience was already full. The sound of mountains and seas could be heard from time to time, and the names of Jiangqin, Wang Lin, and Arasima resounded in his ears. It seemed that these 2 little girls were really prosperous, and their careers were developing very fast. Fong Yan sat alone for a while, and a pair of old people with vicissitudes of life walked in timidly. They saw that there were already people in the box, so they stood at the door and didn't dare to come in. But they knew that this was their seat, and they didn't want to leave. For a moment, they didn't know what to do. Fong Yan grinned and took the initiative to greet them and said, Are you Lu Yi's parents? We are, Lu Yi's father said. On such an occasion, although he was also very nervous, it was still necessary to stand up and greet them. Your seat is here. Come in, Fong Yan said with a smile. Lu Yi's parents came in and sat on the 2 sofas farthest from Fong Yan, although they couldn't be too far from Fong Yan. In their hearts, those who could watch the performance in such a place must be famous people. They had no experience in dealing with such people, and they didn't know what to say. However, it was also rude not to say anything. Lu Yi's father looked at Fong Yan and said, Sir, did you give Lu Yi the concert tickets? Fong Yan nodded and said, Yes. You are. Lu Yi's parents looked at each other and began to guess Fong Yan's identity. For all the parents in the world, any strange man around their daughter was dangerous. I am Lu Yi's teacher, Fong Yan said with a smile. He was indeed Lu Yi's teacher. He taught her how to win the respect of others. He taught her how to be a person. What Fong Yan didn't expect was that Lu Yi didn't accompany her parents. It seemed that this girl was more sensitive and proud than he had imagined. If she had really changed, then these 2 tickets to the concert were too valuable. It might be worth more than the value of the whole concert. I happened to have extra tickets on hand. I saw Lu Yi at the entrance of the concert hall, so I gave her the ticket. So its teacher, Lu Yi's parents' hearts that were hanging in their throats suddenly fell to the ground. The 2 of them clasped their hands tightly. There was a kind of relief after the lingering fear. Hello, teacher. It's good to be a teacher. Are you teaching music at the Academy of Music? Fong Yan smiled and didn't answer their question. He said, I thought she would come in with her classmates. I didn't expect her to give the tickets to you. Lu Yi is a filial child. Lu Yi's parents' faces were full of joy. Lu Yi's mother finally couldn't help but open her mouth and said, "Our Tao Tao has been sensible since she was young. There is only one apple at home, but she knows to divide it into 3 parts. She gives the biggest part to Dad, saying that Dad works hard. The second biggest part is for me, saying that it's hard for me to cook every day. She eats the smallest part. It's because our family's condition isn't good that the child has suffered with us. The greatest gift is giving. You give her everything you have, how can she suffer?" Fang Yan comforted them with a smile. "You see, now that she's grown up, doesn't she know how to repay kindness?" "Yes." This child, Lu Yi's father, couldn't stop smiling. He said, "I said I didn't understand this and let her and her mother come in, but she didn't agree. She still has a great youth, and there are plenty of opportunities to enjoy in the future. She hopes to give you what she thinks is the best, so that you 2 old people can enjoy it." Fang Yan echoed the pride in their words and said, "The concert is about to begin. I won't bother you 2 anymore. If you need anything, you can tell me." Fang Yan could see the restraint in their words and the inferiority in their bones. Every word Fang Yan said to them was like a punishment. At this time, the best way was to let them keep silent and seriously enjoy the next performance. Lu Yi's father said while rubbing his hands. He wanted to step forward and shake hands with Fang Yan, but he felt that it was a little inappropriate to do so. In order not to make them nervous, Fang Yan deliberately walked to the edge of the railing of the box and stood there. He planned to stand and listen to the concert. "Young Master Fu, let me tell you, these 2 little girls are still very young. Not only are they pretty, their skin is so fresh and juicy. You can even pinch them and water will come out. Aren't you tired of playing with that little girl from before? Do you want to change the goods? I know you like this kind of girl." A frivolous and greasy man's voice came from the railing of the box next door. "What? Liang Decheng, what kind of unorthodox methods do you have?" A gloomy voice said jokingly. "Hey, as long as young Master Fu agrees, I'll settle these 2 girls for you tonight." "What? Which star comes to our Huaqing to visit? Won't they give us a taste of sweetness? Didn't they say that these 2 girls have a strong background? They've been in the industry for several years, and no one dares to have any ideas about them? What background can they have? Isn't it just because she calls Xia Tian sister? There are so many artists in Xia Tian's company, can she take care of them all? Besides, let alone Xia Tian's sister, even if Xia Tian comes personally, as long as young Master Fu says the word, I can also think of a way to get rid of her. Bullsh * T Heavenly King and Queen, that's what those little brats call them. We won't put them in our eyes. If we want to play, it'll be 2 kings and 1 queen." The conversation continued, but Fang Yan's expression was as cold as frost. When Xia Tian wanted to bring Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin into the entertainment industry, Fang Yan was worried that something like this would happen. But Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin both liked it, and the fact that they wanted to promote classical music was indeed praiseworthy. After vaguely knowing some of Xia Tian's background, he thought that there wouldn't be any blind guy in Huaxia who would have ideas about Xia Tian or Xia Tian's disciple. Therefore, Fang Yan finally relented and helped Xia Tian convince Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin's family. From the conversation between Liang Decheng and young Master Fu, Fang Yan also heard that Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin had been having a smooth life these years. With Xia Tian's protection, no one dared to touch them. However, they weren't afraid of those with a high level, but they were afraid of those with a low vision. Those who knew Xia Tian's identity wouldn't touch Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin, but people like Liang Decheng and young Master Fu who didn't know Xia Tian's background were likely to use dangerous methods to force the 2 girls to submit. Fang Yan was about to make a move when suddenly there was an earth-shattering uproar below the stage. "Jiang Qin, I love you. Yuan Lin, fate comes to you. Arasima. The stage, which was pitch black just a moment ago, was suddenly lit up. The concert had officially begun. The place where the stage was originally located had become a fairyland filled with wind and snow. It wasn't the background of an electronic screen, but a real man-made scenery. Snowflakes danced in the sky, and winter-sweet flowers bloomed. There was a bamboo pavilion in the middle of the plum blossoms, and two girls in white and cyan palace dresses were laughing and playing in the pavilion. From time to time, there would be laughter that sounded like silver bells, and people couldn't help but curl up the corners of their lips. The scenery was fairyland, and the people were immortals. The immortals and fairyland complemented each other. The performance hadn't even started, but the visual effect presented by the Arasima team was already refreshing. "I'm not playing anymore, I'm bored to death." The Cyan Fairy sat on the stone chair in the bamboo pavilion, threw the red embroidered ball in her hand into the snow, and said in a tired voice. The voice spread through the speakers, and Fang Yen could tell that it was Yuan Lin's voice. "Sister, let's make a song?" The White Fairy walked to the opposite side of the Cyan Fairy and said softly. This was Jiang Qin's voice. "Make a song? What song?" The Cyan Fairy was very tempted by her big sister's suggestion and asked with a smile. The White Fairy pointed at the scenery around them and said, "We're here to admire the snow and flowers, so this song naturally has to be related to the white snow and the plum blossoms. How about we call this song, Looking for Plum Blossoms in the Snow?" "Sure." "Then let's play out what we're feeling right now, and call the song, Looking for Plum Blossoms in the Snow?" "Wonderful." And so, the Cyan Fairy took out a long flute from her waist, put it to her lips, and began to play it. The sound of the flute was ethereal and intoxicating. The White Fairy sat on the stone chair, reaching out her slender hand to play with a phoenix tail gouging on the table. The sound was clear, like a mountain spring. The sound of the gouging and gouging was very pleasing to the ear. And the best part was the combination of the flute and the gouging. One was long and distant, the other lively and powerful. Two different instruments, two different girls. The combination was enough to make people go crazy. Fang Yen gripped the railing tightly and looked at the two girls who were performing seriously in the snow and plum blossoms forest with a face full of joy. These were his students, and he was very proud of their achievements today. Just like Lu Yi's parents, because their daughter gave the biggest piece of an apple to her parents, they had always remembered it for more than 10 years. He wanted to tell everyone in the world that they were his students. "Young Master Fu, look, do you feel anything? Do you feel anything? I'll book them, and let them wear this palace dress when we're working." Chapter 489. Su Qi's private room was on the 3rd floor, directly facing the center of the stage. Sitting in this position, she could look down at the performance on the stage, belonging to the VIP of the VIPs. It was also the most expensive and prestigious position in the entire music hall. It was said that these seats were given to some very important people at the beginning. When Fang Yen asked for a ticket, even with Lu Chaoga's connections in Huaqing, he could only get a VIP room on the 2nd floor. Su Qi's private room was also for 4 people, but she was the only one who came to watch the concert. It could be seen that Su Qi had put on a lot of effort for this concert. She took off the Vermilion Bird Middle School's sky blue uniform and changed into a long white dress with floral patterns, a pair of light blue, deep-waisted canvas shoes, and a small floral hat on her head. She looked delicate and fashionable. She didn't use too many accessories, and she didn't put on too much makeup, because she knew better than anyone that a girl's most powerful weapon was youth. A girl's feelings were always poetry, and she was at the age of poetry. Su Qi sat in her seat and waited patiently, but the man still didn't show up until the concert began. She wanted to call Fang Yen to ask, but she found that she didn't have that man's number. Is this love? Su Qi thought, resting her chin on her hand. She actually fell in love with a school security guard? If this kind of thing was known by her classmates or her group of friends, they would definitely laugh at her, right? But who cares? Right? He said that what he was doing had been done before, and it was done by someone more courageous than her. Who was that girl? Was she also a student? What an enchanting and charming uncle. Clang! The private room door was pushed open with great force. Su Qi's heart suddenly stopped, and she turned around with a face full of surprise. Then, the smile on her face froze. Baldy, dressed in a navy blue suit, stood at the door, sweating profusely. He looked at the girl and kept apologizing. I'm sorry. There's a concert tonight, so there's a traffic jam. When I got there, I couldn't find a place to park. I drove around the concert hall a few times and finally stopped in front of the store across the road. Suki did not hear what Baldy said. She only cared about one thing. Why are you here? That's me. Baldy looked at the girl in confusion and said seriously. Why you? Why not me? What about him? Oh, you mean Fang Yan? He's not free. He's not free. Su Qi's heart suddenly ached. He didn't have time. This reason really hurt his pride. Baldy walked over to Su Qi and sat down beside her. Don't be sad, he said. Fang Yan was very busy. When he got back, he still had to cook for the old principal. Didn't you want someone to watch the concert with you? It's the same if I accompany you. Just like you, I'm also a hardcore fan of Arasima. Baldy waved his hands in the air and shouted the slogan of Arasima's fans. Star, I love you. Star will be together forever. Yeah. I'm not bragging. When it comes to appreciating classical music, I'm better than Fang Yan. It's different. Suki said. What's different? You're not good looking. Baldy opened his mouth again and again. He didn't know how to refute. In the private room on the second floor, such a tragedy happened. What a masterpiece! A gloomy man's voice sounded. Beauty is the most beautiful. Beauty is pleasing to the eye. Beauty that can cause the downfall of a country will shock the world. They're not twins, but they're better than twins. Liangdeng, my happy life is in your hands. Young Master Fu, it's a small matter. You've come from afar and our Huaqing has nothing to entertain you except some cheap seafood. Coincidentally, these two girls are Huaqing's specialties. Why don't you go through the trouble of appraising them and see if they taste good? It's no problem. I'm willing to do this. Young Master Fu laughed heartily. Dachang is not bad. You're loyal. From now on, you'll be my good brother. Fang Yan's good mood disappeared. He used a bit of strength and grabbed a wooden plank from the wooden railing in front of him. He threw it in the direction of the voice coming from the private room next door. Someone screamed. Who threw it at me? Who the hell threw it at me? Someone roared angrily. It was Liang Decheng, the pimp who wanted to introduce Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin to young Master Fu. Young Master Liang, what's wrong? What happened? Blood, young Master Liang, your head is bleeding. The private room next door was in chaos. Damn it, search them row by row. I want to see who dares to go against me, Liang Decheng shouted hysterically. Decheng, don't be rash. There are too many people here, don't blow things up, young Master Fu comforted him. If things get out of hand, we won't be able to do anything. Liang Decheng seemed to be extremely afraid of this young Master Fu. Although he was still cursing, he could only suppress his anger for the time being. He also knew that if he asked his men to search the private rooms row by row, he would offend all the guests in the VIP rooms on the second and third floor. If the commotion was too big, the concert would be messed up by him. By then, everyone's attention would be on him. Even if he wasn't afraid, there was no need for him and his old man to be on the headlines, right? Damn unlucky. Liang Decheng cursed angrily. If I find out which bastard did this, I'll skin him alive. A cold, murderous intent appeared in Fang Yan's eyes. If it wasn't for the sake of the concert going on normally, that piece of wood would have crippled someone or directly smashed their skull, killing them. If he hadn't shown mercy, did he think he would still have the chance to speak? That attack was just a small punishment. It had to be said that this was a high-standard concert. Fang Yan had heard Music Addict, one of the 7 addicts of Wuxia, perform classical music live at the Maple Leaf Club. That kind of breathing could move people's emotions, and it made people's minds have endless associations. Along with the joy of the music, joy of joy, sorrow of sorrow. Deep down, tears streamed down one's face. With Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin's current attainments, they naturally couldn't be compared to Music Addict. They were too young and had too little experience, so they couldn't perform a silent and sorrowful movement. But they took a different path. Since they couldn't perform sad music, then it had nothing to do with sadness. They just wanted to pass on happiness. Therefore, in their music, one could feel the wind singing, see the snowflakes dancing, and experience the magical process of plum trees growing and blooming quietly. They were two fairies who descended from heaven, chasing and playing in the snowflakes, happy and carefree. Clear joy and refreshing laughter spread along the way. One didn't need to think too much, and one didn't need to do much. One just needed to enjoy and laugh with them all the way. This was the feeling that Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin brought to the audience, and it was also the feeling that they brought to Fang Yen. Fang Yen thought that their choice back then was right, and their efforts were worth it. He liked this kind of music, and Hua Xia also needed this kind of music. It's so beautiful. Lu Yi's father praised and said enviously, if our Tao Tao could be like this in the future, how great would that be? It definitely can. Our daughter is so beautiful, and she studies so hard. Teacher, don't you think so? Lu Yi's mother looked at Fang Yen expectantly and asked. They didn't understand music, but they simply believed in their daughter's excellence. This kind of belief was very firm, but also so lacking in confidence. So they hoped that there would be a professional who could give them some comments. It definitely can. Fang Yen turned around and smiled. As long as she continues to work hard. Thank you, teacher. Thank you, teacher. After Lu Yi's parents heard this simple and even exaggerated comment from Fang Yen, their faces flushed with excitement and they kept saying thank you. Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin performed, treading on the snow to find plum blossoms, 3 lives, 3 worlds, greeting the Lord, and also sang several ancient songs on the stage. One of the songs was called Swallow Dock. The green bricks and gray tiles were their deepest concern. The affectionate and moving melody, the familiar and touching lyrics, made Fang Yen unable to extricate himself. This song was written and composed by Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin. Before they sang, they said that they wanted to give this song to their teacher, their best friend, a very special person to them. Fang Yen knew that the person they were talking about was him. When he cared about them, they didn't forget him. At the end of the concert, the venue that had been quiet became noisy again. The fans who had just woken up from one classical feast after another were unwilling to leave. They shouted the names of Jiang Qin, Yuan Lin, and Arasima over and over again, and shouted encore again and again. Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin were also unwilling to leave. The two of them stood in the center of the stage with a microphone and bowed deeply to the audience below the stage. We don't want to leave either. Jiang Qin raised the microphone and said, "It seems like it has just started. Why is it over already? Huaqing is our hometown, and you are our family," Yuan Lin said in a sweet voice. Before preparing for the concert in Huaqing, the staff were very nervous. They were worried that we would make mistakes and let our relatives in our hometown laugh at us. But honey and I don't feel nervous at all, because you are our family. Even if we don't perform well, you will definitely forgive us. Who would be too harsh on their relatives? The applause below the stage was like thunder, accompanied by happy laughter. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.